It is 6 a.m. Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It is Monday, January 27th, and you have tuned in to the Jeff and Phil Show, News Talk 710 ANUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history, and Donald J. Trump is your president. Let's get after it. We got a whole show for you planned of engaging conversations, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We've got a very busy morning. Terry Schilling is going to join us, president of the American Principles Project. He authored a piece with Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, the Federalist, about how the Trump's second administration can really take on some of the awful stuff happening in the pornography industry. There's a big Supreme Court case right now as to whether or not states can even provide age verifications. We'll be talking with Terry about that in just a little bit. We're going to talk the CIA COVID-19 leak information that came out over the weekend. We're going to talk Colombia deportations. We're going to talk possibly Trump's third term. How does Billy feel about a third term of Donald Trump?
Who said that was going to be on the table? It'd be this guy right here. Prior to the election, I said there were going to be machinations and movements to try and offer Donald Trump a third term. And people on the phones and the text called me a dummy and said that I was just projecting, and that's not what I would do. But again, cursed monkey's paw. Be careful what you wish for. We'll talk about it later.
Because then comes back Obama. No, I don't know. We'll talk Trump's third term. Jimmy Sengenberger is going to join us in the 9 o'clock hour. Great piece to be about Jenna Griswold kicking off her gubernatorial campaign with a campaign finance violation. Well done, Jenna.
Seems on brand.
Well,
that's fantastic. Yeah.
Right.
What else
Can't
would you
get
expect?
anything right.
Yeah.
Boulder, CU Boulder's in the news in the Wall Street Journal of her DEI information. That's coming out as well. And then, of course, the TDA party over the weekend, broken up by our good friend, Steffan Tubbs.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That was cool. That was a neat story. That was a really neat story. The fact that it was some sort of like underground club and things like that. That was kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, and they broke it up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
They were partying till 5 a.m.
Oh, yeah. Again, I guess it was invite only. So you figure out when does the invite start, and then you go late in the evening. So you make sure people are, you get enough people walk through the door because not everybody shows up early. Yeah, I'm curious about this one. I hope he's able to join us this morning. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. We have a request into him, see if he can join us. But Jason Crow goes on Meet the Press yesterday and lambasts the president over his immigration rhetoric. He's always about the rhetoric. He's demonized. Donald Trump's demonizing immigrants. Don't you know how great they are for America? On the same day, the DEA busts over 40 illegal immigrants, many of them being TDA members, just outside, maybe even in his district. I think it's just outside his district, but right next door. Goodness gracious. So lots to cover, lots of news for you. You're not going to want to miss it. And then, of course, the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl.
That sucked.
Wow.
Let's bring Blake in on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chiefs are back in. This is stupid. This is ridiculous.
You know what?
Yeah.
Because it's historic and we've never seen a team win 3 straight. I'm actually going for the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, that's the end of Blake's news today. That's it. So sorry. That's nothing else.
Now look,
it
will all change if the Eagles wear their Kelly green uniforms, their old school uniforms. I can't stand their new look.
Yeah,
I mean, the past 20 years, they've been wearing that, I think 15, 20 years. But if they break out their Kelly greens, the old school Eagle uniforms with the gray face mask. I don't know if they're the away or home team this year. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing for me,
I'll jump on that bandwagon. How about that?
They're very talented. I'm like, the Chiefs again. I'm beginning to dislike the Chiefs almost as much as I dislike the Patriots during the Tom Brady era. But that's okay. I am being a hater at this point. I completely and totally acknowledge that because I bleed Broncos orange and blue.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
Yeah, and so it's difficult. Although there is something that I saw pop up on social media, and someone wrote about it over the weekend as well. And it's not necessarily true, but it's about perception. And the idea being that, they always say that perception equals reality. The argument was that there is a perception by a portion, not a large portion, but at least a small portion of NFL fans, that these games have been rigged, that the refs are going to call softer fouls for the Chiefs because they want the Chiefs in the game. Now, again, we've heard that for years. We even heard last year that the entire thing was preset and someone had released, here's the Super Bowl matchup. Neither of the teams that were released early in the Super Bowl matchup in the quote leak were actually there. But the person writing said the perception's a problem because even if 10, 15% of the NFL fans believe that, they'll stop watching. And they said that's the problem based on the erosion of the credibility.
There's literally a text message from Jay from Louisville saying that exact thing.
Exactly.
Right now.
And so that's the idea is, and the person saying is that, and what their premise was that the NFL better get their referees on point. And they better come back and realize that the 2 fouls that were called, against the Texans, and even some of those face mask penalties yesterday that were called in favor of the Chiefs, they need to take a look at those kind of fouls, and especially things like when the quarterback slows when they're running out of bounds, when nobody else does that because they're trying to draw a foul, when the quarterback slides and all of a sudden makes themselves an eminent target, but you can't touch them while they slide for an extra 3 to 5 feet. And so how come they're allowed that space? They said that those type of allowances are going to erode the popularity of the NFL in certain fans, and they will just simply stop watching. The other idea that I had, though, is if we want to give the quarterback a different set of rules, go right ahead, but put him in a different uniform. Put him in the exact opposite uniform. So like if the Broncos are wearing orange pants and a white shirt, then the quarterback has to wear an orange shirt, white pants. Just so you know, and you have to do 2-hand touch below the shoulders. Yeah. That's how you tackle quarterbacks. 2-hand
That's kind of how practice is.
Exactly. That's exactly. So what you do is you turn the practice into the game. If that's what we're going to do, if these are the people that we can't hit, then let's run into those rules. And that's fine. But I think the perception of the fact that the finger is on the scale is going to and has the possibility of eroding some of the fan base. And what's the one thing the NFL doesn't want to have? Losing fans.
That's true. Do you think? What did you think of the officiating in the Chiefs game?
I think that the Chiefs get some soft calls. But I'm a professional soccer fan, and there have been major scandals of refs throwing games. So I'm used to bias. There are certain Premier League referees where when you see him, you're like, crap. If you're going to sneeze on someone, he's going to call a penalty. You just know this going in on certain refs have certain ways of calling games. Italian refs are fantastic. English refs, not so much. So, I just think that sometimes the Chiefs get soft calls, but it is what it is.
I've got to tell you, though, that is my pet peeve. Officiating when fans talk about officiating. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I get it.
I mean, it's unless you're looking at play number 1 all the way to the very last play of the game when the gun sounds and you have evaluated everything. Yeah. I think overall they do a pretty good job. But when you're in a home stadium in front of a home crowd, I mean, it's always going to lean that way a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. I had a math teacher in high school that was an NFL ref.
Oh, really?
And he was the one. Do you guys remember this? There was a Broncos player that got mad and poured water.
Yes.
On one of the refs. That was him.
Oh, no way.
And he was at Cherry Creek High School.
Oh my God,
what's his name? I think I remember.
Start with an M. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I hardly remember.
As I told my kids when we were talking about the game, and we talked about the games over the course of the season, that playing through high school and college, especially in college, you got to know the refs because everybody runs in a certain region.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
So when you show up, you look and you're like, oh, I would take a look at the refs and go, okay, I know who these guys are. There was one guy that I remember he did not like how physical I played. So I knew I had to dial it back during that game, or I'm going to get fouled and possibly get a bunch of cards and could get thrown out. So I knew I had to play. There was another ref. Oh, he was my favorite because I could molest the other player and he would go, I see nothing. I mean, the other one is, I remember that again.
He liked your politics.
Oh yes. I don't know what it was. I remember one time that I visibly elbowed another player while we were on the ground and he sat there and the other team screaming and he goes, hey, He pulled him down. He kind of deserves it. I was like, hey, you're my favorite. So that's part of it too, that if you know these refs, so if you know they're going to call these kind of fouls, you don't do it. You play based on what they set the standard at. You meet their standard, even if you disagree with their decisions. They're making the rules that day. Play to it. You know this, so play to it. Everybody knows the refs that are soft. Everyone knows the refs that are hard. You play to it. So that's why I agree. You don't complain about the refs.
Every head coach and every quarterback knows that. Okay, the referee. I call them officials, but officials, the referee, they know. Generally speaking, for the most part, they know the family members of the referee. The referee, and then the other officials, they know how many kids they have, grandkids, what they do for a living, or what they used to do for a living. Now they can make a living. I have to tell
you, man, we spent all this time. We got to get to an interview like in 5 minutes.
Let's go.
We got to get to the news. I'm sorry.
Let's blow
it's
through
my
this.
fault. All right, your turn, man.
12 degrees, clear in Denver, expecting a high of 44. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story: a weekend raid by the DEA in Colorado resulted in seized drugs, weapons, and apprehended suspects from the international gang member Trende Aragua.
The DEA says its local division operated a raid on a drug trafficking ring that involved members of the Venezuelan gang Trende Aragua. ICE agents and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives were also on scene. The DEA said about 50 undocumented immigrants were taken into custody. I'm Lisa Carton.
Hopefully, Steffan will call Jeff and Billy this morning so we can hear from Steffan Tubbs on this. The Trump administration says the Colombian government has agreed to unrestricted acceptance of illegal aliens from Colombia returned to the United States. The White House says Colombia agreed to DJT's terms over the weekend after he threatened tariffs. Yeah, they turned that plane back around. Colombia denied entry to a pair of U.S. military deportation flights. Then 47 threatened tariffs and visas on Colombian officials. And all the tough talk from the president, Petro, died quickly. Petro is a mess, and the Colombian people know it. A car theft suspect was shot and wounded by Arvada police during a standoff Sunday morning. Police say officers discovered a stolen car near Kipling Parkway around 3:40 in the morning. The suspect got into the vehicle, refused to exit, and began firing several rounds at officers. Officers returned fire and struck the suspect, who was transported to a local hospital with life-threatening injuries. Dr. Jillian Michaels says fraudulent signatures of doctors are being collected to destroy RFK Jr. and his confirmation this week. Shady.
Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds shady as shit to me. A letter that anybody can sign with zero credentials as many times as they want to, that is claiming to have over 17,000 signatures by medical professionals, which I've already shown you is clearly a lie. And they claim not to take money from pharma or insurance, et cetera, but they're funded by the Arabella network through different shell 501c4 and C3 companies who doesn't disclose who its donors are and who absolutely has an agenda, manages billions of dollars, and strategically places those billions of dollars to facilitate its agenda. Give me a freaking break.
And the lead funder, Bill Gates, the globalist dirtbag, anti-American. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com.
He's going to have time here, Jim. Whole season for Buffalo on the line here. There they come. He just desperately throws it up in the air, incomplete. Kincaid was right there.
The Chiefs brought the blitz on 4th and 5 from their own 47 with 2 minutes to play, and the season ends for Josh Allen and the Bills for the second time in 3 years. It'll be the Chiefs and the Eagles in Super Bowl 59.
ELGSES.
That's right. I gotta find that again. We gotta play that again. So funny.
I mean, you just watch.
it was very clear that the Eagles were a superior team over the Commanders, and that the Chiefs were a superior team over the Bills. But wasn't there a point where we could have gotten Patrick Mahomes?
I've
heard that.
We've talked about this like
passed.
5 or 10. Oh yeah, sure. But once again, there were very few teams who knew that he was going to, turn out to be the player that he is, a Hall of Famer. I mean, people at Texas Tech knew that he was a great player, but I'm sure they didn't think he was going to be the second coming of God, I don't know.
The football gods.
Yeah, exactly. So you never know, Jeff. You could go back. Hindsight is 2020. Elway could have got Josh Allen. Everyone hates that. So you roll the dice. 10 in Castle Rock, 9 in Broomfield, 12 in Denver. It is Monday. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
The week will be off to a quiet and warmer start here along the Front Range. Actually, it's going to be pretty nice for late January. We're going to be making the 40s today, 40s Tuesday, 40s Wednesday under sunny to partly sunny skies. Generally light breezes. Lows at night will be chilly, teens and lower 20s. Slight chance of a few snow showers Wednesday night and Thursday as we're clipped by a storm passing just to our south, with temperatures holding steady, although slightly cooler mid to late week. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to Jeff and Billy. I got to tell you, we have an update for you on the T-shirts. Jeff and I talked a little bit this weekend, and we've got a surprise that we're going to discuss later on this morning, so stay with us. There's something very special about the T-shirts because you, our audience, really showed up and got us 1,000 votes. So we want to make sure that we take care of you. So we got something special to announce later on that we're going to kind of push this T-shirt thing to the next level. But first, I want to take a moment to talk to you about some friends of mine that we're just starting as an advertiser here. We're going to talk to Jennifer later on this week, hopefully. Wound Care Associates of Colorado. It seems kind of silly that those little cuts that, don't heal as much. When you're younger, it seems like you heal right away. As you get older, they kind of stick around. You've seen it. I've got some scars that as kids, they would have never been scars, but it takes longer as you get older to heal. And that can be a big problem because if you ignore that chronic wound, it's not fixing the problem and can turn into a seriously big deal. Torn skin and tissue are the perfect place for germs, bacteria, and all the other yucky stuff to get inside your body. That's exactly what they're looking at doing. And then once they do, they set up shop and it is party time. Jennifer, you might hear the other ad she's running, talks about her uncle. Her uncle developed a small, and I'm talking small cut between two of his toes. He had some other comorbidities. The cut became infected. He didn't think the cut was a big deal. It just wasn't healing. That's tiny. Who cares? Well, that cut got infected. By the time he sought medical attention because it was swelling and looking a little too red, there was an infection that had taken hold. They had to amputate part of his foot. The worst part about it was because he had waited so long, the infection had taken hold in his bloodstream further up his body and had gotten into his organs. He passed away 3 days later after they did the surgery that was supposed to fix the problem. That's how dangerous a chronic wound can be. I don't want you to wait. Don't mess around. Contact my friends at Wound Care Associates of Colorado. They have expert wound care professionals, and this is the difference. We're not talking about you going to an office. They come to your home on your schedule. No transportation problems, no sitting in the office, no worrying about whether or not it fits with what you need. They come to you in the privacy of your own home. Comprehensive, compassionate care by trained medical professionals. They'll assess your wound, develop a personalized treatment plan, and provide all the necessary care to heal your wound. Many of those other wound care people out there are just looking at maintaining the wound. They're just looking at making sure it doesn't get any worse. Is that how you do it? If you had a leak in your home, your water's leaking, you say, well, I hope it doesn't get any worse. If you had a broken arm, I hope the broken arm doesn't get any worse. That's not how you treat things medically. You fix it. Don't ignore the problem, fix it. That's what Wound Care Associates of Colorado is going to do. You'll receive expert care in the comfort, privacy, and safety of your home. They're talented medical care professionals that are going to tailor-make a plan specifically for your care, and they will reduce the risk of complications and promote healing. If that wound doesn't seal up, you are always at risk for further infection. Do not mess around with this. This can go sideways seriously. My aunt struggled with this as well. She got MRSA when she was getting wound care treatments inside a hospital. She was doing what she needed to, but she went where all the bugs were. She went inside the big office where all the germs were, and she caught stuff there. And it became a problem, lost some of her toes. This is important to me. Do not mess around. Contact my friends at Wound Care Associates of Colorado. If you or a loved one is struggling with a chronic wound, contact them today. ColoradoWound.com. ColoradoWound.com for all the important information and to schedule your in-home visit today. This can be serious. Make sure you and your loved ones are taken care of. I'll tell you more about a personal story as we expand the contract and talk more with them as well, because I got some more stories about people that have had some problems because of ignored wounds in their life, my father and other people in my families. ColoradoWound.com. I'm serious. Don't mess around with this. Contact them today and make sure you heard about them here on the Jeff and Bill Show. You'll get the care you need in the privacy of your own home. They're fantastic people. And, let them know you heard about it from us. Thanks.
That's great to hear, Bill. And good update on the T-shirts as well, right? Coming?
Yeah, this is going to be so cool. I think maybe 8 o'clock hour or so, we'll see. But I'm really excited about this. This is the one that I had an idea. And you know what? Our audience did us a solid. So I got to make sure that when we come back, we're going to do you a solid and make sure we do these T-shirts right. So this is going to be really cool.
If you missed the side story on this, Kyle and I go back and forth sometimes on X.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. It is so cool.
And whenever he, tries to give me a dig or something like that, this army of commenters show up and just they just love him. So they jump right on whatever he's doing and they jump right in. Yeah, dogpile. Yeah. Great description. Dogpiling. And I mean, it's not terrible stuff. It's just kind of funny. And they're so serious about defending him that we decided we'd come up with a nickname for these because you have the Justin Bieber believers.
Yeah, the believers.
Right?
The Swifties.
And the Swifties. Yeah. And to many people, Kyle Clark is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yep.
And so we did a poll and Kyle's Karen's won big time, but 75% on 1,000 people that voted. And we'll give you the update on the T-shirts a bit, but I've got to just laugh at the fact that he sits there and is like, they're mocking the fan base. They're coming up with T-shirts.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
He hasn't responded to any of this.
I know. The thing is, here's the fun part is, okay, in high school, I went to a local high school and we didn't like where Jeff went, Cherry Creek. We had banners and we actually printed a short run of T-shirts that said, and you guys had Creek had about 3,500 kids. Yeah. So we got whatever it was like 3,576, I think, or something like that was the year. That could be off, or the number of kids in the year. So what we did is we printed blue and white T-shirts that said 3,575 drips make a creek. And then we use it in your font. And again, because you're poking fun at the other team. And so that's just fun. That's just what we're doing. We're just poking fun at the other team. And we have got some wonderful T-shirts and a great update for you.
Speaking of T-shirts, my boys and I watched one of my favorite 30 for 30s over the weekend.
Oh, what is it?
Which was the Convicts versus the Catholics. Oh, have you ever watched that one?
I've never seen that one. Tell me about it.
That's the one about the University of Notre Dame versus the University of Miami.
Yeah.
And how this kid made these T-shirts. This was in the 80s or 90s. Yeah, and the school went nuts because it was deemed so offensive that the University of Miami kids were being labeled convicts and all that stuff. He made a ton of money, but then the university came down hard on him, all because of t-shirts.
Yeah.
We're inspired by him.
Exactly. We are, because we said if you guys voted 1,000 times in the poll, we would print t-shirts for you. And so I was working on it this weekend, and I had an idea. That because y'all had shown up and did us a solid, that we're going to make sure that we take care of you. So we are going to do this thing right. So later on this morning, we will unveil the new surprise about this. Yeah, this is kind of cool. This is really cool.
Billy, there's some new information coming out in the Wall Street Journal about the COVID-19 lab leak theory.
Oh, this was hilarious over the weekend. This was funny. I tracked this line of BS over and over. Oh, my God.
Are you ready to change your thinking on this?
Why? Why would I?
Well, here we go. Wall Street Journal. CIA now favors the lab leak theory on the origins of COVID-19. The agency says it had, quote, low confidence, unquote, in its findings, but this is further than it has gone in pinpointing the origin of the virus that killed millions worldwide. The Central Intelligence Agency has now concluded that the deadly COVID-19 pandemic most likely arose from a laboratory leak, sending credibility to a view that has been the focus of sharp debate among scientists and politicians for years, including on the show. Because I have been of the lab leak mind ever since. Bill has leaned, but never shut down the lab leak theory, but leaned towards the natural variation theory. So, Bill, does this change anything for you?
No, but what it does do is it confirms for me that the vast majority of our news reporters have no idea what they are doing. This, to me, was a very fun exercise, and I brought in 2 of my kids on it this weekend. A very, very fun exercise in news reporting. We did a couple of exercises on how information is presented and processed and how it is presented to the public. And this was one of those. It just popped up. And I'm like, look, we are going to track all the reporters that have no idea what they're talking about. And the person writing in the Wall Street Journal, unfortunately, falls under that umbrella. They have no idea what they're writing about. And here's the reason why. That line that says the CIA says now it's most likely. No, the CIA didn't say that. They never said that it was most likely, because when governments have assessments, they have 3 categories.
Yes.
They have high confidence, moderate confidence, and low confidence.
Yes.
And each one of those means something different. And I understand that people go, no, but they're saying the lab leak. Okay, let me ask you a question. You've got a terminal illness. Your doctor comes to you with 3 options. Says we have 3 possibilities that should take care of this illness. We have one that we have a high confidence it's going to work. One has moderate confidence it's going to work. And one we have low confidence it's going to work. Which one do you choose? Which treatment plan do you take?
Well, of course, the high confidence one.
Now, if your doctor came to you and said, hey, we got 3 treatment plans for you. We have a high confidence treatment plan for you. We have a medium confidence treatment plan for you, and we have a low confidence treatment plan for you. And we are favoring the low confidence treatment plan. That's the one that we are recommending. We think that's the one that is going to solve the problem. We think that's the correct solution to your problem. How much confidence do you now have in your doctor making the correct decisions on your healthcare?
See, that's interesting, because I think now you're misreading it.
No, not at all.
Yes. Because the idea of low confidence is the belief, right, that I'm not looking at this, the CIA spiking the football, going, we clearly figured this out. But after years of the lab leak theory being panned as a conspiracy theory, to have some pretty significant government agencies, including the FBI, Department of Energy, and now the CIA, saying that, yeah, maybe it's 51-49% in favor of lab leak as opposed to natural development. That's a big deal.
But low confidence doesn't mean 51-49. Low confidence is normally a less than 30%. It normally is in the low 20s or teens. That's normally where low confidence is in government reports like this. So what they're saying,
compared to 20% more than
but what they're saying is
20%
what they're doing is they're not comparing lab leak versus that's not. They're comparing the lab leak theory. They're not weighing it on balance. They're going after this. They're investigating this line of information. And they say that most of it out there is bogus. They said there could be some things that are true. They cannot verify them, but most of the information is incorrect, inaccurate, or bogus.
Wow.
That's what low confidence means.
I read that totally differently.
Oh, I understand that you read it differently, and that's because how the reporters are preventing it. But I'm telling you, if you go and look at the government classification system, that is where, and this is why it's not on you. It's not on anybody in our audience. This is on the reporters being dumbasses and not understanding their job. This is why I started the example of this is why for me it was fascinating to watch this trail of blatant misinformation and all these people running wild over stuff that wasn't true, because what the reporters should have done is gone, oh, click, 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 click. What does the ranking system mean? What does it mean when a government entity says high confidence, moderate confidence, low confidence? What does it mean? Not a single one of them did that. So when they presented the information to you, to I, and to all of our audience, they leaned into a direction that the information says the exact opposite. So the information says 180 degrees. It's not saying it doesn't exist. It's saying they can't verify it at all. That's what it says.
And the reason why?
Yeah.
What is the reason why they can't verify it?
Information's bogus. They don't have enough information. They have bogus information.
It's because China won't cooperate. It's in the reporting right there.
In part, yes, but
China will not cooperate with this, so they're never going to get to the high confidence stuff.
But what we did have, the thing is, there have been research studies and things on the ground. There have been research studies that have talked about and identified some animals that can be a likely cause, and they found proximate cause as far as the virus that does exist in animals that were in and around the wet market, and they have seen this virus in that area as well. So again, not saying that is the proof. But those research studies have been done. The other thing we've done is we've been able to look at things as far as the virus in other countries. So it is low confidence. It doesn't mean it's not a possibility. But all these stories saying, as the Wall Street Journal one says, it is most likely, that's 110% wrong. That is not what the CIA is saying. The CIA is saying that this might be true, but most of the stuff that we found says it's BS. That's what they said. They didn't discount it. And they're not taking a dog in the fight. And it's not a matter of, was it lab leak or was it, wet market? That's not what they were assessing. They were assessing what's the framing of the lab leak.
I mean, you can say that, but I'm looking at all these headlines, BBC, AP News, and you're telling me the AP News that says the CIA believes COVID most likely originated from a lab.
Yes, that reporter is wrong. Yes.
Oh,
yes. No, again, I understand what the reporter is saying, but all we have to do is go and look at the ranking system inside the government. It's not my opinion. It's what the government says. And you can talk to anybody that has worked in government intelligence. And George Brockler would actually be one that would be able to confirm this, that high confidence is, this is true. Moderate confidence is flip a coin. Low confidence is normally 30% or below, normally in the mid-20s to high teens, that is the right solution, that is the right conclusion to come to. Again, doesn't say the lab leak's wrong, doesn't say the lab leak doesn't exist, and I'm open to that possibility, and it absolutely could have happened. But the CIA is not saying it is most likely a lab leak. That's just not what they're saying here. Based on the terminology the government uses. The headline
out of the Associated Press is literally the CIA believes COVID most likely originated.
I know that, but here's let's play the most likely idea. What's most likely? The CIA is incorrectly misusing their terminology, or the reporters are misusing the government terminology?
Or,
what's most likely?
Bill, you've gotten it wrong.
What about the assessments?
Or the reading of it.
No, it says low confidence. Do we need to go back to the government rankings? We can go and look.
I'm going to look those up.
Go and look. Yeah, go and look.
All right.
Go look at how you classify the government rankings. Low confidence is normally less than 30%.
I would love for folks to join the conversation. You saw the headlines. Do you believe it?
And this is why reporting sucks. When you talk about the idea that, there are reporters and they're all picking sides and stuff. Yeah, this is why reporting sucks. These reporters failed. Every single one of them failed at the core of their job. And that includes information outlets that I trust. Yes, absolutely. And it was fascinating to
Billy
see that every one of them was wrong.
planting his flag.
Yes,
Do you agree with him? 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Phone lines are open. Join the conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. President Donald Trump is threatening Colombia after the country's president refused to allow 2 flights carrying illegal migrants to land. Trump saying that the order was given by Colombia's socialist president, Gustavo Petro, who is already very unpopular, he says, among his people. Petro's denial of these flights has jeopardized the national security and public safety of the United States. So Trump says emergency 25% tariffs will be issued that will then be bumped to 50% after a week. He's issuing a travel ban and will immediately revoke the visas on Colombian government officials, all allies and supporters. He'll enact visa sanctions, beef up CBP inspections, and issue banking and financial sanctions as well. Plus, he says this is only the beginning, asserting that Colombia will take back their criminals that they forced into the United States. Colombia is now reportedly offering its own presidential plane to take illegal migrants out of the U.S. 59-year-old Darren Osborne, who was convicted of helping his son hide 4 bodies in a Wisconsin cornfield, has been sentenced to 16 years in prison. A jury found Osborne guilty of 4 counts of hiding a corpse in October. According to prosecutors, Osborne's son, Antoine Suggs, shot 4 people in St. Paul, Minnesota in 2021. The victims' bodies were discovered in an SUV abandoned in a Dunn County cornfield. In Dallas, Christina Owayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Lots of text messages coming in on this one.
Yeah, I try to keep up with them.
8422. Billy, you're missing it. Why do
What am I missing?
Why do you feel the need to go against the obvious fact?
What
This
am I
came out
missing?
6 years ago, and the worldwide media covered it up. Now they're saying they were
What came
wrong, and you don't believe it.
What? No, they're not. They're saying they have low confidence. This is the part that I have a difficulty with, and this is why we went and did the exercise with my kids this weekend, is that we need to understand the definition of terms. We need to understand how the CIA uses these terms, not how we want to interpret them. Not to this isn't Alice in Wonderland. We didn't go through the looking glass. We're not sitting here with the Cheshire Cat who tells us that words mean what I say they mean, no more, no less. One of my favorite quotes from Lewis Carroll, because it means that person's allowing themselves to interpret the definitions of the words. How does the CIA use the analysis of low confidence? What does it mean? None of those reporters went and looked. They all ran with the idea of most likely. And the thing that got me was the newly christened Trump official that came out and said, this is most likely. We have confidence now. That's not what the CIA said. And again, in my example, the newly christened Trump official is the doctor that said you have a terminal illness. And we have 3 courses of treatment. One that we have high confidence in, one that we have moderate confidence in, and we have one in low confidence in working. And the doctor has recommended the low confidence treatment. That should tell you how much faith and how much reliability and trust you should put in that doctor. We can all make our own choices. But CIA is using this as a particular term. The intelligence, those things mean something. And they're not coming out here, and we can invent whatever we want to if it makes us feel better. We've done that a lot. But it doesn't change, we talk about it, the immutable truth. The immutable truth of what those terms mean in the intelligence sphere means they don't have any confidence in coming to that conclusion. They mean it is based on dubious intelligence. It means that assumptions are filled in where important gaps in the logic and conclusions are needed. That some of these sources may be reliable, but they cannot corroborate them. So they're not discounting them, but they're saying what we're hearing from 1, we can't corroborate from 2, 3, or 4. That's fair. And that's fair on intelligence. But it doesn't mean the CIA says it was a lab leak. That's at the core. They're not picking either side. They're not saying lab leak or wet market. They're not saying Jeff's right. They're not saying I'm right. They're not picking a side. They're just saying in this theory, this is what we can tell. I don't understand why this. And again, this is what, and it's not, I'm not mad at the audience. I'm not mad at you, Jeff. I'm mad at the reporters. I'm mad at the reporters for not understanding their job, for not getting this one right, because there are going to be millions of people all across the country that are not Jeff and Bill listeners, that are not going to understand what that analysis actually meant. Because I guarantee you can run through a whole hell of a lot of commentators that are both conservative and liberal. And 99.99% of them are going to get it wrong. But we're not.
So here's how I see it. I saw the media and our government officials come down hard. I mean, censor, kick off social media, slam in the idea that this was a lab leak. No, of course this came from a wet market. You are all a bunch of conspiracy theorists. And one by one, you're now watching these government institutions. It's the FBI, Department of Energy, and now the CIA go, well, maybe it was. And it's so crystal clear to me that this came from the lab in Wuhan. I think Fauci put funding behind gain of function research that resulted in mass deaths. That's the reason why he got a preemptive pardon from Joe Biden. They're going to seek to bury this. This was put upon us by our own hands, and there should be criminal prosecutions. And now I'm watching government entity after government entity start to go, well, maybe this did come from a lab leak.
But they're not agreeing with you. They're saying it is more likely not
It's going to
confirmed.
come. Watch this.
Again,
join
it
the
can.
phone call 303-696-1971. You choose the news. Coming up next, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is News Talk 710 KNUS. I have high confidence we are going to return with You Choose the News.
That's good, Bill.
They will fire. I hate this button. Okay, there we go.
Well, it's Monday morning, and we're already kicking it off spicy. Let's bring in a little levity.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we get to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. It's what we call You Choose the News. I had some free time this weekend, so I spent a lot of time finding some really fun stories about us dumb humans and giving them really dumb headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why? Because nobody in charge has any idea we are doing this. Yes, this is a secret between Jeff, Blake, myself, and all of our listeners. And shh, we appreciate you keeping it secret. A couple of people have mentioned something about there was a game show, and I had to distract them last week. Here,
and
I know.
even Iggy here is texting
Exactly.
and going, "Hey,
Dude.
can I join?
No.
Just callers join?
Well, maybe someday we're going to have to, but I'm worried about this thing getting out. So Blake Olson is joining us from the news department. Here are your headlines, gentlemen. Headline number 1, expanding the labor base. Headline number 2, oh, excuse me. Headline number 3, confusing automotive technology. And headline number 4, Care Bear Stare. Mr. Hunt.
Let's start with the Care Bear stare.
Yes, Care Bear Stare. We are traveling to Hong Kong for this one, and officials in Hong Kong are hoping that maybe we take some inspiration from those fuzzy little creatures that were popular in the 80s and made a comeback in the late 2000s. They're trying to figure out how to keep people from smoking in public. Already in Hong Kong, they have tough smoking rules. They ban smoking in restaurants, workplaces, indoor public spaces, some outdoor public spaces, stuff like that. But they want it to be a completely tobacco-free city. However, the officials have decided, the police can't be everywhere. And even if you said, hey, that person's smoking, by the time the police would show up, they'd probably be done with a cigarette anyway. So how would you possibly enforce this law? And Hong Kong is saying, we just need to care a lot and then stare at them. Yes, they are advocating that in public, yes, you stare at them disapprovingly. And show them, maybe go tisk, tisk, tisk. And then if everybody stares at them at once, maybe they will stop smoking. But since tobacco is addictive, I don't think that's going to work. But that's okay. I just think.
I thought maybe they were going to install like those vape detectors everywhere
Yeah, I know.
that make loud siren sounds.
Yeah, but no, they decided just stare at them. Which again, I mean, imagine.
That's kind of what we do here.
Let's launch that against Kyle Clark and Jared Polis and Mike Johnston.
Yes.
Anytime you see him in public,
no, just stare disapprovingly at them. I am so disappointed in you. All right, Blake Olson, sir, your choice. Expanding the labor base. Oh, excuse me, or confusing automotive technology.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Here we're traveling to England. A recent report says that UK nuclear submarines were put on alert lately. The Royal Navy heard some sounds. They thought Russia had dropped a listening device into the seabed in northwest Scotland between the Isle of Raasay and Applecross. The sounds were intercepted by Navy sensors within a span of a few days. They believe that Russia had deployed deep sea research units, the GUGI, to track the UK's nuclear submarines. They were really worried about that. So they immediately went into the area and started investigating and found out just a bunch of whales were a little gassy. Yeah, it was whale farts. Yeah. Exactly. Nice reference to Steve Martin there. I appreciate you, Blake. Yeah. So the idea being that, they thought whale farts were Russians putting deep sea sensors under the water to So we don't know if the whales offered to say, hey, pull my flipper, but I'm not sure. All righty. So last choice this morning, Mr. Hunt.
Nice.
Expanding the labor base or confusing automotive technology.
Expanding the labor base.
Yes, we got to expand the labor base. Missouri's attorney general is arguing in a lawsuit that's been filed about mifepristone. He said, if we don't let all of these teenage mothers give birth, we are decreasing the labor force here in Missouri, and it's actually hurting our nation. Yes, they are saying that now the young girls should be forced to give birth to the babies because it would help the state. And I'm confused. I did a meeting or something. I don't know if we're supposed to tell the kids, hey, help the state, have a baby before you graduate high school, or if we're supposed to have them not do but Missouri has the highest rate of teenage pregnancy in the country. So
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, January 27th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you just woke up in the greatest country in history, and Donald Trump is your president. Colombians are already being sent home. We've got a whole lot to cover, including that, the TDA secret party that got broken up by the DEA. Steffan Tubbs is going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour. We're going to talk Trump's possible third term, as well as CU Boulder's DEI problem, and Jimmy Sengenberger joining us as well. And coming up in just a few moments, Terry Schilling. You're not going to want to miss this interview. This guy is a ton of fun. Could Trump work to reduce pornography in America? What is going on? There's a big U.S. Supreme Court case right now about that. We'll be covering all of that and more. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 12 degrees, clear in Denver. Expecting a high of 44. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, almost 50 people are in custody, and drugs and weapons have been seized following a DEA raid of a makeshift Colorado nightclub. DEA Special Agent Dave Oleski says the effort targeted a drug trafficking ring that involved members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
This location was set up to be an after-hours party, and there was approximately 50 individuals who we identified at that location during our enforcement operations.
Great work. ICE agents and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives were also involved in the early morning raid in Adams County. Officials say at least 41 of the people inside the building were illegal aliens. The Trump administration says the Colombian government has agreed to the unrestricted acceptance of all illegal aliens from Colombia returned from the U.S. The White House says Colombia agreed to DJT's terms over the weekend after he threatened tariffs. Colombia denied it, right? They denied entry to a pair of U.S. military deportation flights. Then 47 said, forget all this garbage, and threatened tariffs and visas on the Colombian officials, and it was all reversed, Jeff.
In between golf holes.
Yes, he was at Doral playing golf. That's awesome.
America's so back, baby. I love it.
Man. Hey, I got to tell you this. I have a couple members in our family. Their parents are from Colombia.
Yep.
And man, they are so overjoyed about everything. And yeah, it's fascinating to talk to them. They're in Miami, and they are just, I mean, so thrilled.
Well, I mean,
about everything DJT is doing and what happened yesterday.
This first wave is all criminals that are going out right now.
Absolutely.
So these are bad guys that have deportation orders. They're chained up. They're loaded onto a C-130 and off they go.
Right.
So I was fascinated. I was reading, I think it was the Wall Street Journal over the weekend, about how churches are not organizing nearly like they did during Trump's first term to try to provide like safe housing for illegal immigrants from deportation. Mm-hmm. And it's in part because they've seen communities just so riddled with crime. It's like
absolutely
with Aurora and TDA and torture and abuse that's taking place in these communities. Churches are like, maybe they do need to go.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Yeah, there's too many innocent victims out there and bystanders who don't deserve this. They're just trying to live and work and get through every day and raise families, and they have to deal with this garbage. Hey, a car theft suspect was shot and wounded by Arvada police during a standoff Sunday morning. Police say officers discovered the stolen car near Kipling Parkway around 3:40 in the morning. The suspect got into the vehicle, refused to exit, and began firing several rounds at officers. Officers returned fire and struck the suspect, who was transported to a local hospital with life-threatening injuries. Harry Enton, he continues to look at the numbers with DJT. CNN anchor Kate Baldwin, she doesn't want to believe it.
Take you back in history. So it was so interesting to me that Donald Trump's first net approval rating of his second term is higher than his entire first term. And I was interested, has that ever happened? Has the second term net approval rating in the first month, have you ever had a higher rating than any net approval rating during the entire first term? Donald Trump is the only.
Really hard time believing this.
This is 100% true. I went back. I love Donald Trump is the first guy ever whose net approval rating in the first month of his second term is higher than any rating that he had in an entire first term, Kate Baldwin. This is true. I don't make stuff up. The numbers are the numbers.
The numbers are the numbers. I'm having a hard time believing that. That is classic, man. That's good.
That's gonna stick in my head.
Yep. Yours and everyone else's head.
I'm having a hard time believing it.
It's great stuff, man. This stuff, it's not news. It's just great entertainment. It's great comedy. Today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and the survivors and family members are gathering in Poland to mark the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp. Potential new owners of TikTok could be a company called Perplexity AI and the U.S. government. The AI company submitted a proposal that would allow for up to 50% ownership by the government. TikTok has a few remaining to find a U.S. buyer, has a few weeks remaining to find a U.S. buyer or face being banned here over national security concerns, is what they say.
He's going to have time here, Jim. Whole season for Buffalo on the line here. They come. He just desperately throws it up in the air, incomplete. Kincaid was right there.
The Chiefs brought the blitz on Josh Allen on 4th and 5 from their own 47. What a great call by the Chiefs D coordinator. With 2 minutes to play, the season ends for Josh Allen, who almost completed that pass to the tight end. He couldn't make the catch. For the second time in 3 years, it'll be the Chiefs and the Eagles in Super Bowl 59. The Chiefs have a chance to become the first team ever in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. The Chiefs will have to tackle, because running back Saquon Barkley, unstoppable for Philly on Sunday against the Commanders from D.C., the former Redskins. 10 in Lone Tree, 9 in Thornton, and 12 in Denver. It's Monday. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The week will be off to a quiet and warmer start here along the Front Range. Actually, it's going to be pretty nice for late January. We're going to be making the 40s today, 40s Tuesday, 40s Wednesday under sunny to partly sunny skies. Generally light breezes. Lows at night will be chilly, teens and lower 20s. Slight chance of a few snow showers Wednesday night and Thursday as we're clipped by a storm passing just to our south, with temperatures holding steady, although slightly cooler mid to late week. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I want to take a moment to talk to you about my friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. This guy's pro-life, pro-family, pro-America, pro-faith. He's everything you want. Great guy. Long record of service in this community. Solid reputation. That matters, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case sends a message to everybody involved in the case. You don't want to hire that guy that just went by on a billboard, okay, on a bus billboard. That's not who you want. You want a solid attorney to represent you. But even more than that, Dan Caplis is a real winner in the state of Colorado. Listen to some of this. Dan Caplis is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted that they're the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. You might be saying to yourself, oh, I don't know if I can afford this guy. Don't worry. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. You getting that injury case, Dan Caplis Law is the guy you want to work with.
And I got to tell you that from some personal people that have worked with Dan Caplis, he really does come with a caring heart. There are times in which he's called people at night to make sure that they are feeling okay. Not calling to have an update on the case. They've had the update on the case by the law team earlier. This was Dan calling them in the evenings to make sure they're feeling okay. I mean, this is someone that is going to go to fight for you, but he's going to also take up your cause. When Dan goes to work, he is going to be on your side. He's not just looking at dollar signs. He's not just looking at what the outcome is so that he can say, hey, I've got another pelt on the wall. This is for him about a mission to make sure that you're taken care of and you get the representation you deserve. I can't tell you the number of times, the number of people that I've talked to that they say the level of personal care and commitment they got from Dan Caplis Law is second to none. If you're in a tight, you got to call him. You really got to call him.
That's exactly right, Billy. Well, can the Trump administration take down the pornography industry? Well, in a recent piece written in the Federalist, Kevin Roberts and Terry Schilling, the president of American Principles Project, believe Trump can and would make America better. But in a socially libertarian state like Colorado, do we want it? That's the question. Joining us now, Terry Schilling. Terry, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's talk about this first. There's a U.S. Supreme Court case right now. Texas has sought to limit children's access to pornography, but the porn industry is like, nah, we want kids to access this. What's going on here?
Well, thanks so much for having me, Jeff. So essentially, the case is called the Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton. And the Free Speech Coalition is the nice, cushy name that an aspirational name that the porn industry chose as their special interest group. This is a group that does not want age verification online. They believe that the onus for protecting children should be primarily on the backs of parents and internet service providers, even though this is the industry that's actually making money by producing this type of filth and pollution. They're flooding the airwaves. It's very simple. What we're asking is that the porn industry follow the same rules and laws on the books that the online gambling industry follows, that the online nicotine and tobacco industries follow, and also that the online alcohol sales follow. Every single adult industry online verifies the age of their consumers, and we're asking that the porn industry do the same thing. It's a very small request, and it's much long past due that we start protecting our kids online.
Well, I mean, I think the industry knows, and science has proven this over and over again, that watching pornography is as addictive as even engaging in like fentanyl or heroin on what it does to the brain. And so they know if they can get that 12, 13, 14-year-old to start watching it, they're going to have a lifelong consumer. Isn't that right?
No, that's exactly right. I think that the most dangerous thing about porn is that it seems innocuous, right? It seems harmless. Who am I hurting? It's just me in my bedroom with my computer. No one else is involved. But the reality is it's having a major impact on you. It's actually, many studies have shown that pornography use rewires your brain to where you get rewards, also known as dopamine hits, when you watch pornography. So it ends up becoming a very unhealthy way that a lot of grown men and teenagers use to get rid of stress. It actually causes more stress down the road. But also the bigger problem, though, Jeff, is that this is changing how we look at our fellow man and woman. We don't look at them as human beings created by God with inherent dignity and inherent value, infinite value. You can't put a price tag on the value of a human life. That's it's very corporate. But it changes how we look at other people, and it makes us think of them and use them as objects, right? Human beings are not objects. We aren't meant to be commodified. Our work and our labor is meant to glorify us and uplift our dignity. And porn hurts us in so many areas, but especially hurts our children because they, of all people, don't understand that this is fake. They don't understand that this is harmful, and they don't understand the long-term consequences of watching pornography at very early ages. And the earliest age, the average age for first exposure for porn online, this is really what's driving it, is 11 years old. That's the time that kids today see porn online. It's absolutely crazy. It's before you've even hit puberty yourself. So we've got to protect our kids. It's been way too long, and our children are our future, and that makes it so much more urgent to do.
Talking to Terry Schilling, he's the president of the American Principles Project. He's teamed up with Kevin Roberts, the president of the Heritage Foundation, on an opinion piece in the Federalist, how Trump's second administration can take down the porn industry. I want to talk in a second about how Trump can take action to deal with this. But I want to get to the problem of this because, look, you're talking to an audience that's in a very socially libertarian state. We have commercialized marijuana. We have commercialized psychedelic mushrooms. We have unrestricted abortion. And just recently, Colorado voters voted to allow taxpayers to fund abortion. It's about as wildly socially libertarian as you can get in this country is the state of Colorado. And I think what my audience is probably hearing right now is, well, how is this any different than, the middle school kid who grew up with a Playboy stuck under his mattress, and I turned out okay. So this can't be that bad. Why are we making such a federal case, literally, out of pornography access? Terry Schilling, can you address those questions?
Yes, sir. Well, I would only be lucky as to find Playboy magazines under my kid's bed instead of what is out there online today. What we have seen with the internet is it's no longer just 2D tasteful nudes that you have to work your tail off to get your hands on, right? I mean, Jeff, if you had a childhood like mine, it was very tough to get your hands on those Playboy magazines. We did a good job of not just protecting our young people from that stuff, but of making it a stigma, making it even difficult for adults to get it. We had a cleaner society, but today you fast forward, and with the advent of high-speed internet and streaming services and virtual reality, the online porn experience would be like comparing computers of today to the abacus of yesteryear. These are interactive now. They have machines and robots that correspond to the videos that you're watching. The videos are more violent. They have younger and younger girls. The themes are very problematic. They're around one of the top searched categories of all of 2024 was incest, for example. We're seeing pornography actually impact not just the way that adults have sex, but I had a very dark and grim conversation with a social worker who works with children who are sexually abused. And she said that she knew that pornography was impacting how we are having sex because it's impacting the types of abuse that she's seeing children suffer from today than when she first got into this line of work in 1996. So this is really bad stuff. It's not your grandfather's Playboy. It's very violent. It's a lot more widespread. It's available anywhere and everywhere. You have a smartphone. So our kids, you give them a smartphone, they can literally access a porn theater that would make even the worst perverts of the 1970s blush, all within an instant's notice, right? And so the internet has just created this enormous and pervasive porn industry to where you can't even go on Twitter or now known as X without stumbling across some porn. So we've got to clean up the internet. It's pollution. Adults, if you want to make the argument that you need to get access to stuff, fine. But we've got to at least make sure it's tough to get. As tough to get as it was to get your grandfather's Playboy in 1995.
Talking with Terry Schilling, he's the president of the American Principles Project. And I've talked to divorce attorneys who have said 100% of the time they're dealing with divorce, somebody in that relationship had a pornography addiction. I mean, it is wild how pervasive and damaging this can be, and especially to young people who aren't being trained to build good, strong, steady families. Like Terry, you have built, I don't even know how many kids you have now. I've lost count. But the idea of teaching, particularly young men, to build strong, stable families, this is something that is insidious, pornography, at destroying that. And that's a real problem that's got to be addressed. So let's switch now to how Trump can do something about this. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, it's a lot of people don't realize this, but it's actually illegal to transmit obscene material or to give obscene material to minors across the country, right? This is in our it's in our U.S. code. It's illegal to do this. And the porn industry has found out loopholes around this. That's why, porn, you're not allowed to use the U.S. Postal Service to mail obscene material. That's why they would have to put it in a brown paper bag in order to mail it, because in order to, identify this, I'm getting into the weeds. But President Trump can actually do a lot from the executive branch to protect our children. He can, one, instruct the Department of Justice to have an obscenities task force. They already have one of these. We do a great job of keeping obscene material off of broadcast television. We don't have pornography on that, so we can enforce a lot of those obscenity standards that we already have on the book through the FCC and the Department of Justice to make sure that online porn companies are not getting around the laws that we already have on the books. We've allowed these groups and these organizations, these billion-dollar companies, to skirt federal law for decades now. And it's time that they start abiding by it. So President Trump essentially just needs to instruct his DOJ to start enforcing the law, and that would clean up the internet and force these porn companies to start doing the same thing that the online gambling industry has been doing since it came about, which is to verify the age of its users before letting them do it.
Excellent. Now, Terry Schilling, President, American Principles Project, got a question for you. One, I have to give a shout out to one of our texters that said there's a little bit of irony in the fact that we're worried about protecting people from porn and the name Stormy Daniels. That's a good joke. But the question I've got is what is the age verification system? Because if it's just click, I'm 18, there's nothing there. But if it's the idea of uploading an ID, scanning it, or giving these companies my driver's license information, where does that sit based on privacy? Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm curious about, is how do you possibly verify this? I think it's a good idea. I just can't figure out how the verification works.
No, that's an excellent question. Thank you so much for asking it. So with these laws all across the country, and we're up to 19 states that have passed these laws, what these laws mandate is not a particular type of age verification. It simply refers porn sites to use commercially available age verification measures. And there is a diverse amount of ways to verify someone's age. You can upload a photo ID. Obviously, some states like Maryland and Louisiana, they have what's known as a digital ID. You can actually, they have this software where you can just wave your hand and it picks up whether or not you're adult based on that. The technology is out there. And actually, you can do facial recognition software that recognizes if you're an adult. This all sounds completely Orwellian until you realize that these porn companies already know who you are. They're already tracking who you are. They know where you spend 8 hours during the day at work, and they know where you spend your 8 hours of sleeping at night. They are tracking you. They know who you are. And what's very interesting to me is that these age verification laws are actually expansions of online privacy protections because they make it illegal for the third-party commercial age verifiers to hold on to any type of data. These companies are hired simply for a yes or no question. Is the user, is the consumer over 18 or not? They answer that question to the website through secure means, and that's that. They're not allowed to store or retain data, unlike the porn companies who are able to track your IP address. They know what you like. They know what videos you rewind. They know what videos you go back to. They know if you like Stormy Daniels or not. They know if you like other types of porn stars. They track all this, and then they use that data and information to develop the porn videos of tomorrow. right? So they are tracking everything. There are no protections online for privacy, and anyone that tells you otherwise is selling you something, and it's probably not someone you really want to trust.
Look at Terry Schilling, president of American Principles Project, working Stormy Daniels into the dancer. Damn! High five. Much respect on that one, sir. Now, what about the idea of using VPNs? We saw some things happen when we were banning TikTok recently, that all of a sudden searches, and VPNs are virtual private networks for our audience that may not know. It allows you to basically pretend that you are logging in from a different part of either the country or a different part of the world. VPN advertisers often say that, hey, you want to see what Netflix is doing in certain parts of Europe? If you have a VPN, you can browse their catalog that is different than the American catalog. Sales of VPNs spiked during that brief window when we thought TikTok was going to be banned. How do we get around VPN technology? Is there a solution there, sir?
Gosh, I wish it's almost like I wrote these questions for you guys, because these are the top
didn't do that at all.
objections we get, but they're actually the easiest to overcome. So the VPN question, right? Anyone that has ever had a DraftKings account or a FanDuel account, like to play sports bets. I love to play sports bets, especially on football. And what I'll tell you is that when I go to a state like Texas that does not have legalized sports betting, and I try to use a VPN, well, DraftKings and FanDuel, they know that I'm trying to use VPN. They can detect the VPN usage. And so what these laws are, how these laws are written is, it's not, they have to verify the age of their consumers, and they have to do it with a strong intent. And so what these porn companies would have to do is they'd have to install controls to make sure that users aren't able to use VPNs, that they have VPN detectors, which they all do. It's all very cheap. It's all very affordable. It's all out there. Look, I keep going back to this. If these standards are good enough for the online gambling industry, then they must be good enough for the online porn industry, which is much more destructive to our country and to our future.
Talking to Terry Schilling, he's the president of the American Principles Project. He partnered with Kevin Roberts, who's the president of the Heritage Foundation, has a piece in the Federalist, how Trump's second administration can take down the porn industry. Guys, we've got to get real honest about this. This is destroying families. And if you're a conservative, you care deeply about family formation, because that's the only way we get to limited government. So to my libertarian friends in the audience, you will never have smaller government without strong families. Terry Schillings in the American Principles Project is working to achieve that. By the way, you can follow him on X. He's a lot of fun to follow there. Go to Schilling 1776. That's x.com/SCHILLING 1776. He's doing great work. Terry, thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill show this morning.
Thank you, man. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Jeff and Bill. We'll see you guys soon.
That'll be a lot of fun to have him back. Check out that piece again at x.com.
There was something we kind of talked about a little bit there, and I think that I would just want to expand on a little bit more, that one of the direct harms, I believe, as far as exposure to porn, especially earlier on in your formidable lives, especially through puberty and early there, is it redefines how you see relationships. Because they're all pretend relationships. It doesn't mean that just because you're the pizza delivery guy and you show up at the door and the lady happens to be wearing a robe, that you're going to get lucky. But according to all the porn, yes, you are. Right. And it also changes how men interact with, because of how they portray how men interact with women. It becomes more of an objectification than an actual relationship. And that's the problem that I really see in the early exposure to porn, is the idea and the expectations of that behavior and of those relationships become so twisted, you don't know what to do. We all know that through middle school and early through high school, we spend some time trying to figure out who we are. We try on different personalities. That's why some of your friends all of a sudden become asshats, because they're trying to figure out who they are. And maybe I'll be this personality for a while. Maybe I'll be this personality for a while. That changes. We've seen that evolution as someone finally settles on something where they feel comfortable, that really resonates with them. But if your exposure to how you treat the opposite sex, or even the same sex, if that's how you are wired, if that's your filter is porn, it's going to give you an artificial setup of how those relationships progress. and what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable in those relationships. It really can twist and make it very difficult for you to have a meaningful 3D real world, to talk about what Terry did, 3D world relationship later on. It's a real detriment. It's not just about looking at the pretty pictures that you may like and go, oh, and he's right. And it feeds the dopamine. It changes things.
It's progressive and studies have shown this. Like, you don't just stay with the nice little thing you watched the first time. You get deeper into more violent stuff. And that plays out in real life. And like he said, the number one search is incest.
Yeah, it's really bad. And the reason being is it's just like with gambling or any other, even a chemical addiction, that you're chasing the high. We talk when you bring in the people from Step Denver, we talk about chasing the dragon because you're always trying to get that big high. Anybody who has fallen into drug addiction knows there's nothing better than the first time. You're never going to get higher. You're never going to get drunker. You're never going to be more screwed up than that very first time you try that drug. And so you're chasing that. And in order to get there, you need to find something that is more shocking to your senses. And so you go deeper and deeper. And that's how that happens. That's why you end up in places you never would imagine. That's why we have certain individuals in our community that you would never believe they were into things like pedophilia or child porn. Talking about a school district that's having a problem with that right now with one of their officials. That person didn't start there. They started somewhere else, and it led them there.
Text messages coming in. Yes, Bill, I totally agree with you. 7579. The point is not brought out enough. The pornography is impersonal. It often renders heavy users unable to have a normal relationship. Their encounters have to be fueled with pornography. This is probably one of the worst aspects of it. I'm going to keep this text message, this next one, private or anonymous, just because I want to respect them. But I do appreciate them texting in. Porn was the root cause of the destruction of my marriage.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
My husband telling me how physically unattractive I was multiple times a week while being totally addicted to hardcore pornography. Had a huge bearing. Jeff and Bill, your guest on porn is right. And then he goes on to say that some of the Taylor Swift shows are pornographic.
That's where there's a line that I draw. I'm not certain that I would go on Taylor Swift. However, you want to go to Megan Thee Stallion? Yeah. You want to go to Cardi B? Yeah, absolutely. They do. In fact, some of those performers say 18 and older is what's on the ticket. They don't enforce that very well. I wouldn't go with Taylor Swift. I don't believe that hers are necessarily pornographic, but based on your worldview and what you're exposed to and what you see, I can agree that how you're seeing it, it could be porn. I can get there with you, but
someone texting in Republican Shalita bill to ban pornography and title it the Stormy Daniels Act.
No, it should be the Stormy Daniels Gates Act. It's what it really should be. Just because we got to poke Matt Gates a little bit too.
Yeah, there you go. Well, my Bible study this morning was Matthew 5, and a good reminder, Matthew 5:28. Jesus saying, "But I tell you, any man who lusts after a woman has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Oftentimes, you get the critique that it's like, well, Jesus didn't talk about homosexuality and all that other stuff. And I'm like, but when he did, it was a high bar, man. You can't even look at a lady without committing adultery. Woo, boy. All right. Thanks for the conversation, Terry Schilling. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. In the first week of President Donald Trump's mass deportation, more than 1,300 illegal migrants have been arrested and are being deported out of the country. 1,000 of those illegals have criminal records. Border Czar Tom Homan, along with top Trump administration officials, are in Chicago as ICE has confirmed that it started, quote, enhanced targeted operations in the city and the suburbs. ICE is coordinating with multiple federal agencies to, quote, enforce U.S. immigration law. Those agencies include the FBI, DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, and the Department of Homeland Security, according to a spokesperson. Deportation operations have been launched in 10 major cities so far, with Homan saying they are focusing on criminals first, but any illegal found will be rounded up and shipped out. Then any and all illegals will be deported. An average of 433 illegal migrants are being arrested each day, with that number expected to rise drastically. Homan saying Biden's rules of not allowing ICE to arrest migrants unless they were convicted of a serious crime are over. Raids have taken place in major cities like Boston, Denver, New York City, and Philadelphia, to name a few. President Donald Trump is threatening Colombia after the country's president refused to allow 2 flights carrying illegal migrants to land. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. This is the station where your voice is heard loud and clear. Call in, join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's go to the phone lines. Joe Arvada. Good morning, Joe. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, good morning. Happy Monday.
Good morning, Jeff, Billy. I was listening to Billy's argument about the definition of what was it?
Oh yeah, threat assessment.
CIA.
So what we're gonna do is let me just recap real quick, Joe. Just if you're joining us right now, you weren't here in the 6 o'clock hour. We are talking about the report that came out over the weekend and all the reporting. The CIA saying they have low confidence that the source of COVID-19 was the lab leak, and then Wall Street Journal goes out and does some pieces. Everybody else does. And said that, now it's decided, stuff like that. So, yeah, and I'm just pushing back on what the assessments mean. But okay, Joe, floor is yours. Continue.
Well, I just knew I'd heard this before, and I kept thinking about it, and I knew where it was. I finally figured it out. It was Bill Clinton. It depends on what the definition of is.
That's good, man. Nicely done. Nicely done.
You know, the thing is that this is such an Occam's razor event. Go back and listen to Jon Stewart, Billy. You find the Hershey's candy bar next to the Hershey's factory, and everybody's asking, where did it come from? Eventually, what we will find out. Now, hear me out. I'm the guy that told you J.D. Vance was going to be the vice president.
Yes, you're right about that. Yes, sir.
We will find out. The CIA is coming clean right now because they had their fingers in the pie inventing the Wuhan virus.
I got a question for you, Joe. What do you mean by the CIA coming clean with this assessment? How do you get to that conclusion?
What they're trying to do is what the CIA always does. They try to migrate away from being the bad guys in the press. It's just like the JFK thing. Why do you think it's taken 60 years to find out the CIA did it?
Yeah.
Because
the other
they
thing,
keep squashing it.
Now, this is totally tangential, man. And it's not really fair. I don't need to comment on it, but totally tangential is I'm curious. We're getting the JFK files. We're not getting the Epstein files. Trump had said a couple of times that he was going to drop the Epstein files, and we're not getting those yet. Again, I'm not drawing any conclusions. I'm just saying I hope that he's going to hold that one up too. Now, here's the idea. So you think that what I'm hearing from you is that you think the CIA is going to start with low confidence, and that eventually they're going to migrate to medium confidence, and eventually they're going to come to high confidence. Do you think that's where their assessment is going to go?
Joe's saying that eventually they're going to get to the place where they're like, our bad. We did it.
Yeah, but so that's what you think is going to happen. So eventually you're going to get...
Let me say what I'm saying.
Yeah, please.
I'm saying that when Kash Patel becomes the FBI director, and as John Radcliffe unravels the mess in the CIA, we're all going to find out that the CIA and everybody in the FBI knew it was Fauci that was developing the Wuhan virus.
Okay, we will look at that one.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, Joe, I got a question for you. If you had a terminal illness and your doctor came to you and said, we got 3 treatments. One, we have high confidence it's going to fix the problem and you're going to be just fine. One, we have medium confidence that we're going to fix the problem and you're going to be fine. And the third one is we have low confidence it's going to fix the problem and we're going to be fine. And your doctor turns to you and recommends the low confidence method of treatment for your terminal illness. What's your assessment of the abilities and skills of that doctor?
Well, it depends on what the definition of is.
No, it would depend on the definition of high confidence, medium confidence, and low confidence, which is defined inside of the intelligence community.
It's just the same nonsense. The Wuhan virus was invented in a lab and leaked, and they tried to cover their tracks.
No, John,
and
I'm not talking
you
that.
don't get it because you're a liberal.
No, I'm not a liberal, but what I'm doing is I'm talking about how the definitions are used. So how would you think about that doctor? Would you say that the doctor that you're dealing with, when they give you the treatment plan that he has low confidence in, and that's the one they're going to pursue, what do you think about the abilities of that doctor? Is that the person you go back in?
Here's where you're just parsing words to try to come up with some inventive reason why the Wuhan virus didn't come from the lab.
Nope.
It did.
No,
You
Joe,
just don't get it.
Joe, I'm not arguing where the virus came from. What I'm talking is definition of terms. In order to understand what the CIA is telling us.
It depends on what the definition of is.
Yeah, so,
I get it, Billy.
Yeah, so Joe, what we know is the intelligence community defines high confidence, medium confidence, and low confidence certain ways. The intelligence community.
It goes back to Occam's razor.
Yes, it does.
It goes back to Occam's razor.
You are exactly right. And Joe, thank you so much for the call. You're exactly right. It goes back to Occam's razor. The easiest answer is probably the correct one. And the easiest answer in this case is, what does the intelligence community mean by high confidence, medium confidence, low confidence? That's the Occam's razor, not how you feel about a lab leak or how you feel about a possible wet market leak. This is about what the intelligence community is telling you.
But you're not
Occam's
at
razor
all,
says this is what they're saying.
You're missing too the point that it went from no confidence to low confidence in this direction. It is the CIA is moving in the direction of it becoming a lab leak.
Yes,
at least the lab leak theory.
And I also have low confidence of it being a lab leak. I don't have high confidence that is wet market. Where I see it is moderate. For me, it's a 50-50 coin flip. I have low confidence based on the information that it is the lab leak, but it is possible. And I am not opposed to, if more credible information or corroborated information comes out that says the lab leak, to go, yep, it was a lab leak. I don't have a problem with that because I don't look at that conclusion being central in my life. I'm okay with changing my mind based on added information. And the CIA is saying, based on the information we have low confidence. And in the intelligence community, that has a specific definition. Anybody else out there is free to invent whatever definition they want. They can ascribe whatever belief system, whatever conclusions they want to it. But it doesn't change the definition of terms inside the intelligence community. The CIA is sending you a message and telling you what they believe about the information. They can come to different conclusion with more information later, but that's where we are now. And more importantly to me, this was an absolute indictment of every single news source out there, because it showed the reporters don't know what their job is. They can't do their job. Well, I've been yelling about that. Jeff's been yelling about that for a long time. We're making T-shirts about a news organization that doesn't always do their job right. This is what we've been talking about. Reporters not understanding what their job is and leading people to the wrong conclusion.
I've got a poll up on x.com/Jeff Hunt. Where did COVID-19 come from? A Chinese wet market or the Wuhan lab?
Now, if one of my kids got to respond, they'd say your mom. Just saying. They're teenagers. That's what we get all the time.
All right. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the Wuhan lab leak theory that the CIA has moved from not agreeing with to giving it low confidence, which means it's moved in the direction of believing it came from the Wuhan lab, but it's not high confidence, as Bill has pointed out. Now, I've asked on X, I've done a poll here. Where did COVID-19 come from? X.com/Jeff Hunt. Chinese wet market or Wuhan lab. It is now with about 50 votes. Wuhan lab at 97.4%.
Great.
High confidence
You
in the X poll.
You need to do next. You need to put up a poll about how many U.S. senators are lizard people. Because if they all vote yes, then obviously it's true. Let's just see what happens. I'm just
High
curious.
confidence on X.
I'm just curious.
The Senate lizard people.
Yes. Is Mitch McConnell part turtle? Okay. How much confidence do you have in that one? I'm just curious. As long as we're going to decide by poll, absolutely. Yeah. Next, can I fly? And we should do that one too. I'm just saying. I'm poking fun, but yeah.
So coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to get into this raid that took place in Adams County. And I don't know, but but I could, with high confidence, believe that the DEA Rocky Mountain Twitter account is run by Steffan Tubbs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good.
In the midst of this raid that took place over the weekend, they got over 40 people, many of them TDA gang members. It was done by the DEA, not done by Mike Johnston or Phil Weiser or Jared Polis.
That's weird.
Done by the Trump-led now DEA. But
yeah,
this came in part of the tweets. Such a shame to see wasted beer. DEA agents from the Rocky Mountain Field Division and our law enforcement partners disrupted a TDA party in Colorado so quickly and smoothly that some cerveza was still on ice when the dust settled. And no, we didn't partake.
Oh, that's
and there's pictures of buckets of Corona in ice at this raid that took place.
Oh, that's
absolutely
wonderful.
A Steffan Tubbs.
Did you see?
Post right
that
there.
Is fantastic. Did you see Dr. Phil over the weekend and his post?
Yeah, no, but I saw he's out there in Chicago.
Yeah, he said, and he posted on the Twitters and stuff that I'm being embedded and we are going after dangerous criminals. I'm like, no, you're not.
I love that.
No.
Dr. Phil's putting himself there.
the DEA is not going to take Dr. Phil on a dangerous assignment. He's not busting the big gang leaders and kicking down the drug lord cartels.
Yes.
They're taking
Give him a little badge.
Yeah, to make him feel nice. They gave me a badge as a sticker when I went as a kid, too, and toured the police department. The fact that they're taking me. No, they're not. They're not putting you in danger, you dum-dum.
All right, we're going to dive into this raid that took place. You're not going to want to miss it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Come get you some Steffan.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, January 27th, 2025. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history, and Donald Trump is your president. Let's kick it off. We got a whole hour planned for you of engaging conversations, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after News and Comment with Blake Olson, we're going to talk with Steffan Tubbs of the Rocky Mountain DEA. The DEA arrested nearly 50 people in Adams County early Sunday morning at what the special agent in charge called an invitation-only Trenderagua party.
Well, not technically invitation. Well, I guess they crashed it. Yeah.
I feel like we need some mariachi music for a Trenderagua.
Oh, did you ever hear the story? And I know Pete's told this before. How professional wrestler Roddy Piper started nearly a riot, and I think it was L.A. or a San Diego Coliseum, because he had been feuding with Pedro Morales. And he said that if Pedro had beaten him, he would show up, and on his bagpipes, he would play the Mexican national anthem in the middle of the ring. So he shows up and plays La Cucaracha. And the place goes nuts. They needed security to drag him out. People were throwing beers and chairs in there. It went into a riot. In fact, Roddy Piper, the reason he wore a leather jacket to the ring is because it actually was Kevlar reinforced on the sides, because he had been stabbed by someone in the audience at one point.
Jeez.
So he wore the jacket because he wasn't going to get stabbed going to the ring or getting out again. Yeah.
Whoa.
But again, think about that. I'm going to play the Mexican national anthem, shows up, and and just the place went nuts. And that's how he got into WWE. Vince McMahon saw the report in the TV sheets about the riot and went, go sign that guy.
Right.
Sign that guy right now. So that's why the DEA heard about Steffan Tubbs. As a DEA had seen Denver in decay. DEA had heard him working on fentanyl.
Yep.
And when the PIO position came forward, they said, go get me that guy.
Yeah. Yep. DEA raid in Adams County gets nearly 50 people. Operation part of a broader DEA campaign targeting TDA. TDA gang members posted about the gathering on social media.
Because that's always intelligent. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm in the FM world where I live. I have this segment where I go, okay, class, let's review. And I go, all together now. We do not take pictures or video and post them online of our illegal activities. All right. And then here's another example. And then we go into whatever the dumbass did about filming the look at all the money I stole and look at all my big pile of drugs. And that always ends well because, you've got your name on there and it's easy to track you down. Yeah. Good job, guys.
Those arrested are undocumented residents. Some are members of TDA, and the raid uncovered drugs, money, and weapons, including a drug known as pink cocaine.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
We're going to have to talk with Steffan all about this. By the way, it's a lot of fun. Go to x.com/DEA Rocky Mountain Division. And I don't know for certain if Steffan manages this X account, but there are pictures of beer.
Yes.
And
the posts have a lot of personality right now. There's some really good, clever personality injected into them. They're really good. Yeah, I hope he's in charge.
Oh, goodness. So we're going to have a fun conversation. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, please ask Steffan. I'm just curious, did they use a band or did they have a DJ or what was it? Please ask.
And they raided them at 5 a.m. Like, dude, it would feel like a form of torture to be at a bar at 5 a.m.
How much alcohol was in them?
Gosh. Yeah, that's exactly. Could you imagine that? Right? Those guys bust in and they're all like, hey, cheering and toasting.
Hey, Gringo. I like your uniform. Oh, you got to ask. 14 degrees and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 44. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, a person is dead after getting hit by a hammer thrown out of bounds during a high school track and field meet Sunday in the Springs. The University of Colorado Springs confirmed the hammer cleared certified barriers and hit the spectator, who was pronounced dead at the scene. UCCS expressed heartbreak over the death and canceled the remainder of the meet. Now, these are track clubs. I do know that the hammer throw not allowed in CHSAA track and field meets for this very reason. So it was track clubs competing on Sunday at UCCS. Wow, heartbreaking story. Also in the Springs. Police discovered the bodies of 3 men near Memorial Park over the weekend. Johan Harper lives at the apartments on South Union Boulevard and says that she called to report 5 shots were fired outside Saturday morning.
I worry that with this happening, where we live, you like to imagine that your home is like a safe place.
It's very close to home. I mean, my kids were sleeping when it happened, and I mean, a random bullet could have went through the window or anything, or a wall or anything.
Officers responded to the reports of a possible shooting around 8 in the morning and found the victims upon arrival. The men have not been identified and their cause of death remains under investigation. There was a shooting last night near Park Hill Golf Club. 2 people are dead and 2 people have been apprehended. ICE reports nearly 1,000 people were arrested in immigration raids on Sunday, as Jeff and Billy were just talking about. The Trump administration, that's a different story. The Trump administration has launched a social media thread showcasing what it calls the worst criminals arrested by immigration and customs enforcement since the president's inauguration. The White House X thread reads that under DJT's leadership, ICE agents are working tirelessly to protect our communities. Now, nearly 50 people are being detained after DEA agents raided a makeshift nightclub in Adams County on Sunday. The DEA's Rocky Mountain Field Division Special Agent in charge, Jonathan Poland, says the raid was the result of a months-long investigation in Colorado.
We took people who were selling drugs. There was potential prostitution at the location. There was guns at the location. We know they're involved in much higher level drug trafficking, and a lot of them went to jail.
They targeted drug trafficking and members of the Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang. Poland confirmed a federal search warrant was executed for what he called a TDA invitation-only nightclub. Officials said at least 41 of the 49 people inside the building were illegal and now in custody of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. DEA officials also seized drugs, weapons, and cash in the raid. Poland says Sunday's raid was not connected to DJT's crackdown on illegal immigration across the country.
With changes in administration, there's always a change in focus. But what we're here today for was an ongoing DEA investigation. As you know, we've been targeting the TDA. DEA has been working on TDA for a number of months here in Denver.
Steffan Tubbs coming up to talk about that with the fellas. The White House says Colombia is agreeing to 47's terms regarding deportation of flights. The agreement comes after Trump threatened tariffs. The statement also said that drafted actions on tariffs and sanctions would be held in reserve and not signed unless Colombia fails to honor this agreement. All of this coming a couple of days after we learned that they found 75,000 kids who've been missing during the open border chaos led by the globalist, leftist, destruction, Democratic Biden regime.
He's going to have time here, Jim. Whole season for Buffalo on the line here. They come. He just desperately throws it up in the air, incomplete. Kincaid was right there.
The Chiefs brought the blitz on Josh Allen on 4th and 5 from their own 47, 2 minutes to play. The season ends for Allen and the Bills. For the second time in 3 years, it'll be the Chiefs and the Eagles in Super Bowl 59. The Chiefs have a chance to become the first team ever in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. The Chiefs will have to tackle running back Saquon Barkley, unstoppable for Philly on Sunday. 12 in Centennial, 11 in North Glen, 14 in Denver. It's Monday. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The week will be off to a quiet and warmer start here along the Front Range. Actually, it's going to be pretty nice for late January. We're going to be making the 40s today, 40s Tuesday, 40s Wednesday under sunny to partly sunny skies. Generally light breezes. Lows at night will be chilly, teens and lower 20s. Slight chance of a few snow showers Wednesday night and Thursday as we're clipped by a storm passing just to our south, with temperatures holding steady, although slightly cooler mid to late week. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy, let's give some folks an update on the t-shirt.
Yes. Alrighty. So a little bit of background information. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, last week, we did a thing. Jeff was talking about the number of times that he engages with Kyle Clark on the Twitters, because I refuse to call it X because I think that's dumb. So at least for now. So on the Twitters, every time that he engages with Sport Coat Boy, basically the gates of Mordor are opened up and all of the ogres come forward. It's like the big, huge horn. And they go, they come running forward. So basically, the Kyle's fans come and dogpile Jeff. And we figured we got to have a name for that group. Every good fan base has a name. You know, you had the Hulkamaniacs. So what are we going to do? Kyle-Maniacs doesn't sound cool enough. So Jeff put on an online poll about what we should call Kyle's fans. Seems fun. Then we had an idea here on the show, and we had a number of different choices. And we said that if you, our listeners, would vote in the poll 1,000 times, that we would print t-shirts. And you did it. You crushed it. Within 24 hours, you got 1,000 votes on the poll. Jeff and I are just over the moon. We feel so thankful. We love the fact that you participated, and we think it's freaking hilarious. So what we want to do is we're going to honor that commitment. We are going to make t-shirts for you. Now, originally we had some ideas about going through Etsy stores and things like that. So I'm sitting there this weekend, spending some time, and I'm designing t-shirts. I'm mocking some stuff up. I'm putting some things on there, and I didn't like them, honestly. I didn't think that I didn't think they were any good. And we're going to tell you here in a second. We're going to talk to Steffan Tubbs, who I believe is calling in. We're going to tell you something amazing, an idea that my stupid self came up with this weekend, and how we're taking these t-shirts to the next level as a thank you to you, our listeners. We want to make sure that you did us a solid, so we're going to do you a solid right back. But we'll talk to you more about that here in just a second.
All right, joining us on the VIP line, Steffan Tubbs. You know that name. He's now with the DEA, and the DEA of the Rocky Mountain DEA arrested nearly 50 undocumented immigrants, many of them TDA gang members. And in fact, the raid was so smooth that the beer was still chilling in the ice. Wow. We want to get the details on all this. Steffan, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show. Great work over the weekend, my friend.
Yeah, morning. Great work.
Hold on. I'm rearranging my bucket of cervezas here.
Well, tell us where you are. We'll be there in a second.
Good morning. It's good to be back at my old home. And, I don't know. I don't think I'm coining this new phrase, but I will say that it's a new day at DEA. And, we're enforcing the laws, obviously, that we've been tasked with. But the investigation yesterday, I just want to make perfectly clear. This investigation started in August on these TDA gang members, and Joe Biden was the president in August of 2024. I don't want to say even culminated yesterday, but the action that happened yesterday under a new administration. We're not red, we're not blue, we're out enforcing the nation's drug laws. And I personally, and you guys, I know you very, very well for years and years, when I say this, I am just so proud to be with a federal organization and agency that is not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. And yesterday was an absolute success.
Talking with Steffan Tubbs of the Rocky Mountain DEA. So give us some insight into what happened. This was an early morning raid. Give us some details.
Yeah, so the location in the 6600 block of North Federal. So this is unincorporated Adams County with a Denver address. But we had investigative information that this location was basically a makeshift nightclub bar. And the old saying, guys, that there's nothing good that ever happens after, I don't know, in my world now that I'm old, it's like nothing good ever happens after 9 p.m.
Yes.
But,
yes.
And maybe in some cases 8 p.m. in the winter. Yeah. But this location in particular was a known location frequented by members of Tren de Aragua. This is not a place where you saw the neon sign and, Bill, Jeff, and Steffan are driving down Federal and, hey, let's go in for a beer. No, this was a location where you were either in this TDA gang or you had associates or affiliates or you were actually invited in. And they did not start showing up yesterday until 4 a.m. So the raid that was conducted was, it went down just before 5 o'clock yesterday morning. And I mean, just absolute incredible partnership work with HSI, with ATF, and of course, the Drug Enforcement Administration and our Rocky Mountain Field Division. There was not a shot fired. There was not a fight. There was not any kind of incident. And, nearly 50 people were taken into custody. And as it's well been documented, and this has gone national as far as a story, well more than 40 were placed on the ICE ERO bus because they were determined to be illegal aliens. They were here illegally.
Talking with Steffan Tubbs of the Rocky Mountain DEA, and word coming in that some of these folks were posting about it online, that there was pink cocaine. What is it? Give us the background on this.
I have no idea about anybody's posting on social media, Jeff. That would not surprise me at all. But when we went in, our investigation found on-site cocaine, crack cocaine, and pink cocaine, which is known as 2C. And it's kind of like this designer drug club scene stuff. It's mixed with either cocaine and ketamine or cocaine and methamphetamine. But imagine you've got 50 people and the club, which is really not a club. It's just the second floor of this, crappy building off of Federal. You've got there's a DJ booth. You've got the music pumping, and we know that, through obviously investigative techniques and everything, that these individuals are here. And inside we found not only the drugs, but quite a bit of cash, which is not a shock at all. I probably told you guys even, over the course of the last year that, where there's drugs, there's money, and where there's money, there's guns, there's weapons. So we seized several weapons. And, I don't want to say this is just the beginning, but I can tell you this is not the end of operations for all of the federal partners, in Colorado and truly around the country.
Talking with Steffan Tubbs of the Rocky Mountain Drug Enforcement Agency. Now, Steffan, you mentioned
administration,
that
Jeff.
Administration. Thank you.
I love you.
You were saying that this investigation started under Joe Biden, but was executed under Donald Trump. Is there a feeling within the DEA that kind of the dog's been let off the leash, that y'all are really empowered to go out there and to combat some of these bad guys?
Look, I think it's a really fair question. I can tell you that, from the Rocky Mountain Field Division of DEA, our message is basically, look, every 4 to 8 years, there's a change in administration. And I can tell you, I know when I first came on with you guys after, leaving the radio biz, and then I took a few months off and then joined DEA more than a year ago. I know I told you guys, and it remains true as we speak. I couldn't be more proud of the men and women that I'm fortunate enough to now call friends and work alongside. But when it comes to, and I understand the question, because you'd think, well, now that Trump's in office, things are really, look, it may be a little more in the media now, and certainly yesterday was a success. But yeah, it was a media spectacle. But I would say that, the mission of DEA has remained steadfast, and that is enforcing the nation's drug laws. And we have an incredible new acting administrator, Derek Maltz, who, when I was at KNUS, he was on my show all the time. He's an incredible patriot, an incredible leader. He was in our film Devastated. But our new administrator on down, this is the time to act. We need to start showing folks that we're taking this stuff seriously. And I certainly think yesterday was an example of that.
Oh, great. So Steffan Tubbs there, that voice, just talking about taking things seriously. And now it's my turn to ask a question. This is not going to go well.
There we go.
Yes. You know the voice, Steffan Tubbs, the former host here on 710 KNUS, and now PIO spokesperson with the Drug Enforcement Administration, talking about the nice bust of TDA gang members running an undercover club up in unincorporated Adams County. Okay, first question I've got, DJ or band? What was the entertainment? I'm just curious.
You know, Billy, because I give my friends at KNUS exclusive information, of course, it was a DJ, and I'm not quite sure what was spinning.
Okay, that's
when
fine.
we walked in.
I understand now. Also, I want to know, just give us a flavor of when we always see these scenes inside of TV shows where the doors bust open and the agents go in. Just give us a little bit, our audience, a little bit of a flavor of what was the reaction of the TDA gang members? How excited were they to see you? But more importantly, what was the look on their face when all these wonderful, fine, upstanding Americans barged in and said, hey, we got to talk a little bit here? What was the reaction? What happened inside there?
Now, I wasn't on the breach team, so I can't give you a firsthand account. I can tell you what I've seen and what I've heard, and it's probably, after the fact, I can tell you it was probably holy bleep.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there was probably, a few bleeps, but again, not one shot was fired. There was, to my knowledge, there was no one even resisting. And I would encourage you guys, and obviously all of you listening, if you haven't followed us, the DEA on the Rocky Mountain Division on Twitter, there's video and pictures that we've posted. Jeff made mention to the beer. I actually thought that was fascinating. I mean, things happen so quickly and relatively smoothly, right? I mean, there's a lot of people and a lot of, potential bad people in there doing bad things. The beer is still on ice. There were Coronas in buckets and the ice is there. And, the music is obviously off, but there were some strobe lights still going, the kind of clubby lighting and all of that. But outside, it was 8 degrees yesterday morning, and we've got 50 people out. Everybody has to be searched. They had to be going through the process of whether or not they were here legally or what their status was. I will say this, and this, of course, because I'm pro DEA, I'm going to say this, but it's true. We had blankets, we had scarves, we had gloves, all available for these people that had just been pulled out of this nightclub. I would say that overall, from my perspective, it was just excellent law enforcement work across several different agencies.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think it is definitely a tribute or an indication about how buttoned up this event and this raid was, that there wasn't a shot fired. And they all kind of, got in line and everything went, because some of us, I'm not saying anybody on this show ever, might have been at a party where the police showed up when you were drinking underage. Some of us, maybe some of you in the audience. And so we understand the chaos that
Billy,
may happen there. I'm just saying, maybe. I've seen movies. I wasn't,
I think I've heard these stories of Billy running down into the basement. The cops
yes,
are here.
cops are here. Yes, we all know. And so the fact that you guys showed up, not only having everything as far as buttoned up, but also being able to crowd control, that says a lot about not only the intelligence you had gathered, but also the execution. I'm looking forward to having more of these reports from you in the future, my friend. This is fantastic. Congratulations.
Well, I appreciate that, Billy. I mean, I did nothing but, stand back and take pictures, but it is, I just want everybody listening, and certainly I know you both know I'm telling the truth when I say people care. It's about time that this country sees the work of the Drug Enforcement Administration right here locally. And yesterday, I think, was the first of many successes to come in the new year.
Talking with Steffan Tubbs of the Rocky Mountain DEA. Now, Steffan, what happens to these guys? Are they processed, passed off to ICE? Is there judicial proceedings? Give us a sense of next steps with these 40 people or so that were arrested yesterday.
Yeah, Jeff, it's a great question. And, from our perspective, the immigration status of any individual, whether it was yesterday or any other time, that is not DEA's purview. We are the enforcement is in our name, as we say. So we're enforcing the drug laws of the United States of America. And so when it comes to next steps, that is under HSI, under ICE or ERO, and we'll see. I would not be surprised if there are some links to certain other metro area cities with some of the people that were taken down yesterday. Please read into that what you will. But this, I can tell you this, guys, yesterday was not a figment of anyone's imagination.
And if you want more details on that, go to Danielle Jurinsky's Twitter account right now.
and we're also certain that when the raid happened yesterday, there were no code violations that were the reason they broke into the building. Just saying.
You know, can I just be light for a minute? I've been so serious the last couple of days. Let's just say, Billy, when I went into that makeshift nightclub last night, it was interesting. I didn't see any liquor license on the wall.
Oh, that's strange. That's so weird.
I mean, how could they be doing
this? It's almost like they aren't following the rules. It's weird.
Well, I think, Billy, what you had said, and you know, you both have intimated, and I do want to. I should be more serious. And you know, yesterday was serious. It was a success. It's not the last, but to see the coordination with the federal partners and the locals, and again, not a shot fired, not a swing taken. You know, we had the upper hand yesterday. We kicked some ass, and I'm proud of that.
Steffan Tubbs, yes. Rocky Mountain Drug Enforcement Administration, getting it done. Man, you look at that with George Brockler back in control of Judicial District 23 and the no nonsense towards victimizing innocent people in our communities anymore. It is like a breath of fresh air. Steffan, you're doing great work. Please give all of our best to the good men and women over at the Rocky Mountain DEA. We're so proud of what they're doing.
Listen, you guys are supporters. I want to, and I know I've told you this, Jeff and Billy, I want to get our special agent in charge in studio with you guys for an hour or 2 hours. I don't know. We'll go to noon. But Jonathan Pullen is a terrific leader for us here in the 4 states that we cover. And it's a new day, baby.
That sums it up.
Yeah, that's
perfectly. Steffan Tubbs,
love you both.
Thanks so much.
Hey, give my love to Crowley and Kelly and everybody. And I'm always here for you. Whether or not I can speak on certain things, who knows? But you're always number one in my heart. You may not be number one in the ratings, but you're number one in my heart.
Yes, and that's the Steffan Tubbs we know and love. You're the best.
Right.
Have a great day, my friend. Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh,
that is
awesome news. How does that make you feel? Join the conversation. Does it feel like the dog's been let off the chain? That's what it feels like to me. I know Steffan's got restrictions on political comments and all that stuff, and I understand that perfectly acceptable, but from my perspective, when you look at George Brockler, District Attorney, Judicial District 23, when you look at what the DEA is doing now, look, Jared Polis was sleeping soundly in bed when these raids took place. All right. He didn't care. In fact, we welcomed this to our communities with those giant banners in Denver that said, "We heart immigrants." Right. And that wasn't legal immigrants. That was about welcoming illegal immigrants to the city of Denver. Mike Johnston did this. Jared Polis did this. Phil Weiser ignored it. What happened yesterday was Donald Trump led, and it is those folks that are willing to let the dog off the chain and get these criminals. That is because things are turning from my perspective. Give me a call. Would love to hear your thoughts. Do you feel like things are changing now that Donald Trump's in charge of the DEA? And do you hold Jared Polis responsible for some of the problems we're having with illegal immigration in this state? 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KMUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Kristi Noem is officially the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security after being confirmed by the U.S. Senate in a vote of 59-34 and sworn in by U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas in his home.
The duties on the office of which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Noam, who replaces former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, says, quote, "It is such an honor to be sworn in as the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. It was made even more meaningful by being sworn in by Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas at his home. Thank you, President Trump, for putting your trust in me to help keep America safe." Rain falling on Southern California is expected to help firefighters who continue to fight multiple wildfires. But potentially heavy downpours on burned hillsides could bring new troubles such as toxic ash runoff. Los Angeles County crews spent much of the past week removing vegetation, shoring up slopes, and reinforcing roads in devastated areas of the Palisades and Eaton fires. The National Weather Service says most of the region is likely to get less than an inch of rain, but there is still a threat of localized cloud bursts causing mud and debris to flow down hills. Rain is expected to last into Tuesday. Flood watches have been issued for some burn areas. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Owayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the raid that took place in Adams County. This is a good cross segment of the headlines. Bill, think of the 4 major news stations in Colorado. Here we go. Channel 4. DEA arrests party. Sorry. DEA raids party, arrests nearly 50 undocumented immigrants and TDA gang members. That's pretty straightforward, right? That's good. Good. Channel 4. Here's Channel 7. Just in, DEA agents conduct a raid at a warehouse in Adams County early this morning, resulting in the detainment of around 50 people.
Okay.
There's no mention there of illegal immigration or gang members or anything like that.
Gang members needed there, but yeah.
Channel 9. Yeah. I'm not making this up. DEA arrests nearly 50 people in Adams County raid.
What?
So no gangs, no illegal immigration.
Do me a favor on the Channel 9 thing. This is an exercise that, again, we were talking earlier about it. Yeah, we were talking about this with my kids also when we started doing this thing about one of our earlier topics and searching things online. Can you click on that Channel 9 story for us real quickly?
I've just got a screenshot.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm going to go look for it. I'll look at it, because what I'm curious about is I want to see what their opening paragraph is, because that'll tell us a lot about who wrote the story. Because if they don't include anything in that first paragraph about gang members or illegals or something like that, then they've really, really fallen down on the job. Yeah, because that has to be in the opening graph. Has to. And they better mention TDA, because it is significant, because as a friend of the show, Steffan Tubbs, outlined, this was a gathering place. It wasn't an gathering place for illegals just to come at night. This was TDA. There were others possibly in that group that were there because, hey, I'm a friend of so-and-so who's a gang member, and we're going to go to this illegal club, and hey, come on. Yes, that. But the reason the club was created, the reason they show up, the vast majority, according to what Steffan had told us, the people that were there are likely TDA gang members. This was a gang member club. So anything that does not focus on that story, on telling that, those people are doing a bad job.
And, they get to it in their second paragraph. I found a link on that.
Of course, yes.
It takes a little while.
No, not
and the headline, of course, is just
idiots.
Fox 31 probably got the closest. ICE detains 50, including TDA members, in a raid of makeshift nightclub in Adams County.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Now, this is what we also have to look at. That you want to get those eyeballs on social media. And if you're looking at the headline that is going to draw the most eyeballs, it's going to be, especially in Denver, the Denver metro, and so I'm including all of our suburbs, TDA gang members.
Yep.
So raid, TDA gang members, illegal are going to be the 3 things that are going to get eyeballs.
DEA arrests nearly 50 people in Adams County.
And
could have been a pot raid.
With KUSA, what did they leave out? They left out
pretty much everything.
They left out the TDA, and they left out. So what they're telling us is that they're not trying to tell the story that way. They don't think their audience will respond that way. And if they do tell their audience that it was a raid involving TDA gang members, maybe it breaks their other narrative. Maybe it breaks their other premise of these illegals just being those, cold, huddled masses yearning to breathe free that they've been portraying them as, not as the gang members going door to door inside apartment buildings and, knocking and going into one place, holding some people hostage and yanking off fingernails. That breaks their narrative. So they're telling you the audience they're cultivating based on leaving out the information. What they're doing is just all the time that all the liberals yell and scream about, Fox News and all the conservative media. What Channel 9 is doing in that headline is the exact same sin the liberals complain about all the time. They're drawing a conclusion without giving you all the information, and it's crap.
I joked yesterday that the 9 News headline should be code violations bring out law enforcement.
Yes. Yeah. No, code violations fixed through law enforcement agency. That's exactly what it is. That should be it. Yeah,
let's go to the phone lines. Jim Sterling. Good morning, Jim. You're on the Jeff and Bill show.
Morning.
Good morning, you guys. I love it. I love the whole dog thing. You got to come up with something, another one. You can form it better than I can. The bull in the China fact, or the China, or what was it? I can't remember how.
Bull in the China
shop.
Yeah, the bull in the China shop. That's what Trump is going to be when he gets into office. He's going to make America great again. and he's going to go in there like he's got Texas Longhorns on.
You know, Jim, I like what you're thinking about that, man, because it's not necessarily where we were on the conversation this morning, but I saw or heard, I'm trying to remember which it was. It was, I was reading a commentator this weekend, and they talked about, now they were being more negative, but they talked about Donald. Yeah, they talked about Donald Trump, the first week being a bull in the china shop. But they did say that from their perspective, you know, while Donald Trump was going in there and being the bull in the china shop, they did say that honestly, some of the stuff that's gotten broken needed to be broken. And I was at least refreshed by that idea. Yeah,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yep.
Some of that, all this stuff has got it's broken. It's already broken. It's already fractured. He's going to crack it all the way and put it down.
I can see that, man.
Make America great again. He's standing up. The guy has got something between down below. There's
nicely done there.
Radio, but to stand up for this, the man could have retired and walked away. No, he's standing up for America.
And see, while I disagree with some of the stuff that Trump is doing and even some of his politics, I want him to succeed because I want America to succeed. I'm going to hold him accountable as far as decisions, stuff like that. But again, I'm going to try as hard as I can. I'm going to be fair. And I want him to succeed because if he succeeds, America succeeds. So
now, Bill, I got to ask you,
make some T-shirts. Make some T-shirts, guys.
We'll have a T-shirt update. We'll have a T-shirt update for you here in a sec. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask. I want to ask you too about the Columbia issue. So there's a series of planes that take off. They're denied landing by Columbia, the country, not the anti-Semitic university in New York.
Denied
the planes, and then Donald Trump threatens tariffs, which is how I always saw he was going to thought he was going to use tariffs. Threatens Colombia with tariffs. They change entirely. Bill, thoughts on that whole situation?
Again, a series of bad reporting led to conclusions that aren't necessarily justified. First of all, when the press release came out from the White House, they were deporting them to the university. They misspelled Columbia. They said CLU and they misspelled it. Just saying.
Oh, really?
They were sending. And again, and the reason that pops up for me is because I can't spell. I'm so bad at it. I'm not necessarily dyslexic, but I transpose letters. I can read them just fine. I'm not on the dyslexic thing, but I transpose letters when I'm writing and typing all the time, and I transpose numbers. So I have a very, very, very slight, it doesn't bother me, and I see everything correctly, but I do it. My brain flips numbers and letters all the time, but I'm very, very minor on the spectrum. Yeah, it's not a big deal at all. And it's not a big, and I would never say that I have dyslexia because I don't deal with it like other people do. The issue being that, again, reporters didn't report because Columbia made the refusal, one, for politics, but two, because of the method of transportation at the time. And the stories made it sound like Donald Trump had done something new. Columbia has been taking deportations for 4 years under Biden and previously under the Trump administration. He didn't start anything.
Why was that happening? I don't remember a story about that.
I know nobody did any stories, but what happened is when the story came out about this fight, I only found two. I found two reporters that actually went out and looked and said, and I've even asked one of the texters today. They've ignored the question, but I asked one of the texters that talked about this as well. What were the number of deportation flights that were occurring under the Biden administration? Because that's a fair question. Because if it was 0, this is huge. If it was 2, this is huge. If there were a significant number of them or a lot of them over the course of the year, this is less of a big deal. It seems like Trump just got sideways with a country that was accepting them beforehand. And if we actually look at the truth, well, the numbers are that I found were 475 deportation flights under the Biden administration from the U.S. to Colombia. In the previous 12 months, over 100. So we were already sending them there. Colombia pushed back because what I'm reading into it is that they pushed back, one, because Colombia wanted to make a big stink about it for politics. But the secondary thing, or at least what they were using, is because they're showing up in chains. Because you're putting him in handcuffs, you're putting him in leg irons, you're not giving him water, you're not letting him use the bathroom. That was the complaint that I'm saying. And again, I'm not saying it's justified. I'm just saying that's the complaint that Colombia used to, in my opinion, cover the politics of it. And then based on that's what I think happened.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. You're exactly right.
That's
You're
my
exactly
feeling on
right.
it.
Cover
Yeah.
the political stuff of
Yeah.
it. Yes.
And good on Trump for pushing back on the politics side to say, okay, we're going to do this. I don't think the tariff is necessarily the best manner to do it, but I'll give him credit for calling the Colombian president on the politics and the visualization of it, because they were taking the flights before. There was no real justification for refusing these flights now, in my mind, other than Colombia playing politics. That's how I
So
view
this
it.
is nothing new. It was all politics.
Yeah, it is. Nothing new. It all happened, but Colombia was playing politics, and Donald Trump called him on it. Good for him.
And now we got the deportations heading out. Jim, I really appreciate the phone call. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the hard work.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go back to the phone lines. Michael, good morning.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. I just watching 31, Fox 31. Carly Moore is reporting an ongoing raid by DEA and ICE in Denver. She can't show it. She can't report the location because it's ongoing as we speak. I was looking for the mayor. I was wondering where he was out there to stop it from happening.
Aren't they supposed to be, like, wherever the raid's going on? Isn't he forming like a human chain or something? And I think there's a song they're supposed to be singing. Yeah. I thought he was supposed to do that.
Residents, of which I am one, to go out there and help him. Like fat friggin' chance that's ever going to happen.
Yeah. I was surprised by that. Now, Michael, got to ask you, man, when Johnston said, just the idea, politics aside, the idea of, hey, us as a community have to go out there and prevent the law enforcement from coming into our jurisdiction and executing the laws. What was your just base reaction? What were the reactions of you and your friends? Again, remember, we're on radio and I can't have a curse. But what was that? What did that feel like, man, when he's telling you that you guys have to step up in order to protect this community?
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
That's number one. He doesn't care. Number two, our police force is dramatically reduced. We're having to have non-citizens being applicants for the police and fire department because no one's applying.
That's a good point.
That's democratic policy. That's what it's about. That's defund the police. So here's what it feels like in Denver. You're on your own. If you expect a police officer to respond to a crime that's being committed in your neighborhood, forget it. It's not going to happen, or it's going to take them an awful long time to get there.
Now, Michael,
and that's sad.
Michael, that you've listened to the show a little bit. You know that I like to kind of play that devil's advocate side, a respect to John Caldera, that idea of coming. Now, okay, what if I made the argument and said, let's say that we have someone that is here illegally, or at least is claiming asylum. Let's go with asylum. And we would allow them, if they joined our police force or military, to fast track citizenship, as long as they meet performance goals and are part of the police force or military for X amount of time. Would you be, and again, they'd have to clear background checks. We don't just let anybody that came in here, and I can be malleable with you. I can, the idea that if you snuck in here illegally, okay, we can cut off there. But if you're claiming asylum and you want to fast track your citizenship, would you allow them to serve as something like a law enforcement officer, a firefighter, or in the military in order to achieve that citizenship faster? I just want your opinion, what you think about it.
I think the military is a different issue because I think it's administered and governed much differently than a police department. So yes, I would allow it in the military because you have a certain mechanism, a certain way of doing things in the military. That's not the same with the police department and every police department in the Denver metro area.
I can agree with you, man.
And if we're going to do it, let's do it when we have a full or mostly full police force that we're funding fully and is fully hired before we start hiring people that are not here legally to be on the police force. And when you say Michael, they've been given asylum, no, they have not been given asylum. They've been they're being looked at. They're supposed to show up for a hearing to determine that.
Hey, Michael, thank you, man.
Here's another question I got for you all. Do you think the DEA notified Mike Johnston of their raids? Did he tip off the illegal immigrants?
That's a good question.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Callers like Michael is why you rock.
live audio from the raid, other than jalapeno habanero pepper. Good morning. It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City, and you have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history. We're off and running. We got a whole show planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson. Jimmy Sengenberger is going to join us. He's got a great piece in the Denver Gazette. Wannabe Governor Griswold stumbles into announcing she wants to be governor, but unfortunately, our Secretary of State, who's in charge of managing all the rules associated with running for office, violated rules in her own announcement. Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, Jimmy writes, wants Colorado voters to make her governor, while the state's top campaign finance cop hasn't thrown a swanky launch party yet. She's already announced her run, allegedly by breaking the very rules she's supposed to enforce. As the Denver Gazette reported, the Public Trust Institute has filed a complaint on January 14th alleging Griswold expended funds on a gubernatorial campaign and had a website dedicated to a gubernatorial run, but has not registered a committee or filed a candidate affidavit for governor. The domain Jenna for Governor was purchased on August 8th. By the way, isn't August 8th in the midst of all of the password
I have to
leak
go back and look.
scandal?
That might be, man. That might be. And I love the fact that she's like, oh, I've got all this controversy, and I got to make sure I secure my website for showing that she had plans while this is all going on. That's the real thing there, is it shows that she absolutely was planning this. This wasn't something that was well, after this happened and after this happened, I've got to jump in the race because of. No, you and I have been calling this, as long as you've been on the show. This is exactly where she was going.
Gotta be the dumbest statewide elected official we have in Colorado. Please, for the love, somebody call in and explain to me why her, out of everybody else, Phil Weiser, Joe Naguse, even Jason Crow, who just loves to be on TV all the time and attend Washington, D.C. cocktail parties. Please explain to me how Jenna Griswold is the best person to lead our state. Oh, my goodness. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Jimmy Sengenberger up next. Let's check in first on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 20 degrees and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 44 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
So people who were selling drugs, there was potential prostitution at the location. There was guns at the location. We know they're involved in much higher level drug trafficking, and a lot of them went to jail.
Special Agent Jonathan Poland, nearly 50 individuals are being detained after DEA agents raided a makeshift nightclub in Adams County Sunday. The raid was the result of a months-long investigation in Colorado. And our friend Steffan Tubbs, now with the DEA, says this was a great night for everyone involved, or maybe I should say morning.
They did not start showing up yesterday until 4 a.m. So the raid that was conducted was, it went down just before 5 o'clock yesterday morning. And I mean, just absolute incredible partnership work with HSI, with ATF, and of course, the Drug Enforcement Administration and our Rocky Mountain Field Division. There was not a shot fired. There was not a fight. There was not any kind of incident. And, nearly 50 people were taken into custody, and, well more than 40 were placed on the ICE ERO bus because they were determined to be illegal aliens. They were here illegally.
Wow. Great work by DEA and everyone involved. Man, 4 a.m. Shoot, they could have dropped by church before they went to jail. They targeted drug trafficking and members of the Venezuelan Tren Aragua gang. Sunday's raid was not connected to DJT's crackdown on illegal immigration across the country. 47 has launched a social media thread showcasing what it calls the worst criminals arrested by immigrations and customs enforcement since the president's inauguration. ICE reported more than 950 people were arrested nationwide just Sunday alone. The White House says that the Colombian government has agreed to President Trump's terms after threatening tariffs. The White House said that the country agreed to Trump's terms, including the unrestricted acceptance of illegal aliens from Colombia returned from the United States. DJT is expected to sign 3 executive orders as he claims to reshape the nation's military. I love it. One of the orders will reportedly include reinstating service members with back pay for those who were discharged for refusing the globalist pandemic vaccine. DJT expected to sign an executive order that will ban transgender Americans from serving in the U.S. Armed Forces.
Hi, I'm Admiral Rachel Levine, and we're here talking about...
And Dr. Jillian Michaels says fraudulent signatures of doctors are being collected to destroy RFK Jr. and his confirmation this week. Shady, shady, shady.
Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds shady as shit to me. A letter that anybody can sign with 0 credentials as many times as they want to, that is claiming to have over 17,000 signatures by medical professionals, which I've already shown you is clearly a lie. And they claim not to take money from pharma or insurance, et cetera, but they're funded by the Arabella network through different shell 501c4 and C3 companies who doesn't disclose who its donors are and who absolutely has an agenda, manages billions of dollars, and strategically places those billions of dollars to facilitate its agenda. Give me a freaking break.
And the big funder, Bill Gates, the globalist dirtbag, anti-American, same ilk as Dr. Fauci, both should be behind bars.
He's going to have time here, Jim. Whole season for Buffalo on the line here. They come. He just desperately throws it up in the air, incomplete. Kincaid was right there.
The Chiefs with the big blitz on Josh Allen. That was a 4th and 5 from their own 47 with 2 minutes to play. The season ends for Allen and the Bills. Second time in 3 years, it'll be the Chiefs and the Eagles in Super Bowl 59. The Chiefs have a chance to become the first team ever in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. It's 17 in Littleton, 18 in Brighton, 20 in Denver. It is Monday. Jeff and Billy continue.
Hold on, I'm rearranging my bucket of cervezas here.
Love it. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The week will be off to a quiet and warmer start here along the Front Range. Actually, it's going to be pretty nice for late January. We're going to be making the 40s today, 40s Tuesday, 40s Wednesday under sunny to partly sunny skies. Generally light breezes. Lows at night will be chilly, teens and lower 20s. Slight chance of a few snow showers Wednesday night and Thursday as we're clipped by a storm passing just to our south, with temperatures holding steady, although slightly cooler mid to late week. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
We can get to the phone lines and Jimmy Sengenberger here in just a second. I want to talk to you about my friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration. How about a simple New Year's resolution? One that even I could achieve. Reverse the clock on hair loss with Advanced Hair's simple one-day FUE treatment. You'll feel more confident, more youthful when you witness your own natural hair growing into those places that have been balding or thinning for years. From Advanced Hair's breakthrough technology to their highly experienced team, there's no one I trust more in hair restoration. Their simple FUE treatment begins to regrow your own natural hair the very next day, and your new hair is backed by the Advanced Hair Guarantee. Simply put, Advanced Hair's exceptional standard of care makes your comfort and your results their top priority. Celebrate this new year with a fuller head of hair and get a free consultation, $250 off, and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. Discover what meeting your resolution could look like with before and after pictures at advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. I've had family members get their hair done, and boy, oh boy, did it change their lives. It affected just about every aspect of it, their business relationships, family, romantic relationships, because it brought back an energy and a youthfulness that they were longing for. And man, they were hitting it out of the park. So check out advancedhairrestoration.com, advancedhairrestoration.com. Let's go to Nick, Denver. Good morning, Nick. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for taking my call. I'll make it very simple. I was listening to some so-called liberals the other day and saying how unspiritual it is to send these people back to their country. And I said to them, look, this country is broke. We're $36 trillion in the hole. We can't afford to fix everybody else's problem. The primary obligation of the American government, local and state and federal, is to the American people who pay the taxes. And I'm sick and tired of, for instance, the mayor of this city admitting that he spent $150 million of our taxpayer money last year on the homeless problem. He has no clue where the money went. He has no clue going forward. And that was it. That's the situation we're in this city, especially. We are broke. We can't afford all this stuff.
Nick, you're exactly right. It just got too big. It was too many people. And what they forget, too, is that throughout the course of world history, the United States has brought in more immigrants than any other country. We are number one. We've been the most generous with our social programs. We have brought in more immigrants. This is in many ways as a result of our spiritual heritage. And they bring up the Bible verses, treat the alien among your midst well, because we were once aliens, and it kind of refers back to Israel wandering through different nations. Right. Of course, we want to be a compassionate nation. Of course, we want people to be able to come to this country, but you got to follow the rules. We're not open border. There's nothing in the teachings of the Bible that demand us being an open border, spending, Nick, to your point, $36 trillion into debt in order to service folks. There's nothing that requires that, and they ignore the fact we have brought in more immigrants than any other nation in world history.
But to be fair, those immigrants aren't responsible for the debt, $36 trillion.
No, not entirely. Not entirely.
No. But even not a significant portion. I mean, I wouldn't say more than 50%. We couldn't say that more than 50% of our debt was done for illegal immigrants. Yeah, we are. We absolutely in debt, and I agree with that. And what I'm curious about is, how do we square the circle of being this immigrant nation, being the idea of a melting pot, with the idea of now a nationalist bend, where we want to have a protectionist strategy, where we want to close the borders, when that's not where the founding was for this country. That's not what the promise of America is, nor is it even the plaque that sits on Lady Liberty in the harbor. Now, I understand as far as immigration being out of control, and I'm not talking about it. I can agree that illegal immigration is out of control. But how do we as a country stay true to who we are by saying, as Stephen Miller says, America is for Americans? At some point in another, all of us, unless we are Native American, our families came here as immigrants. So how do we square that circle in your mind, Nick?
Okay, when the immigrants originally had to go basically through Ellis Island until whatever year they stopped doing that, every immigrant who came here, who was admitted into this country, had to go through a battery of medical tests to make sure that they were physically and mentally fit. Number two, they had to show the immigration authorities that they had a place to live. In other words, they had to prove that they weren't going to be a burden on society, that they were going to contribute to this society, not take away from this society.
Not always, sir. That wasn't always
most
how
of
we
the
did
time.
it.
Most
Not
of the
necessarily. Not when we're going through the 13 colonies and we're talking about founding it and you get into manifest destiny. That wasn't necessarily the procedure. For a while, the procedure was you make it to the soil, you're now an American. And again, I'm not saying we need to return to that. But what I'm curious about is how we, as Americans, fulfill the promise of being the melting pot while also taking on this national protectorate bend. I'm curious how we balance the two.
Okay, we need to ask one further question, which every other country does when they allow people to come into their country. What skills do you have that will contribute to the betterment of our society?
Now, I got a question for that. On the plaque that sits on the on Ellis Island, it talks about taking those from the rest of the world that are rejected. That it doesn't talk about give us those that have skills that are marketable, give us your smartest people, give us those that are going to be most productive. It literally in that plaque refers to taking the refuse of the world, the garbage. How do we fulfill that promise?
Well, for a lot of societies, what they considered refuge were actually very decent human beings, but because of religious reasons or whatever other reasons they decided to leave their country. But we have to have some kind of standards. You just can't let everybody in, especially when you're looking at a $36 trillion debt.
Nick,
Dude,
I sure
thank you,
appreciate
man.
the call.
You
Thanks
thought this
so
through.
much.
I appreciate the conversation, man. I appreciate your call. Thank you. That was
Next
good.
line will be open 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Campos Law text line at 720-819-5115. Well, you know the name, you know the voice. Jimmy Sengenberger, columnist with the Denver Gazette, got a great piece out on Jenna Griswold. Wannabe Gov. Griswold stumbles into announcing her run. Jimmy, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, good morning, my friend.
Hey, guys. Good morning. And yeah, she always finds a way to step in it, doesn't she?
Yes. She's like not SpongeBob. She's like Sideshow Bob on The Simpsons stepping in the yard full of rakes and the giant shoes. Just whack, whack, whack every time she takes another step. It's fun to watch, though.
Yeah, and it never gets old, and there's never a dull moment. This time, she inadvertently, because of her brother, who works on all kinds of campaign stuff and other things with her in politics, inadvertently announced prematurely that she is running for, wait for it, governor of Colorado. The failed Secretary of State of Colorado now wants to be its governor. And what happened is her brother, Chris Griswold, of a firm called, I think, Hilltop Public Solutions, went ahead and bought a domain name for Jenna for Governor. And that just so happened to be illegal because she hadn't announced yet. And yet they went ahead and bought this domain name, jennifergovernor.com, and put a template launch page there that said coming soon and sign up for updates. And so over on 9 News, actually, Marshall Zellinger went and submitted an email for the subscription and got back a return email that said Chris Griswold's email address. So they were able to identify that this was, in fact, for Jenna Griswold for governor.
Okay.
And lo and behold, the cat was out of the bag.
Wait. Okay. Hang on here. Now, we're going to walk the audience through this slowly. This is surprising. So you're telling me that when they set up the website that they shouldn't have set up, they were so clever that they used their own email. Jenna's brother used his own email as the contact point for where people should sign up. That's what you're outlining?
That's exactly right. And
oh my
in the
God,
beginning, when 9 News reached out, it gets even better, Bill.
Yeah.
When 9 News reached out to her and said, hey, is this yours? And by Chris Griswold, he was like, no, we didn't do this. And then he was like, well, you know what? I'll research this and get back to you. And then admitted, yes, in fact, this is research his own doing.
Oh my God, that is fantastic.
I don't remember what name I used when I signed up on the website.
God, it is shocking they are this obtuse. But then again, given previous moves that she has made inside that office, not shocking that she is this obtuse about the mechanisms for running for governor. This is this is stupid. Fantastic, but stupid.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah. I was just going to say, and maybe, Jeff, you want to hit on this a little bit, is that she is, for Colorado, the top campaign finance cop. In 2020, she overturned a precedent that was being set by her predecessor, Wayne Williams, that said, you know what, we're going to keep these people in the Secretary of State's office, Williams or Griswold or whomever, out of the campaign finance process when there's a complaint. Well, she went ahead and made herself one of the 4 final decision makers in campaign finance complaints, and she violated campaign finance rules with this, according to the Public Trust Institute.
Oh, great. So basically, this is like, you're going in front of the judge, and he's citing drug rules and how they're illegal, while he's also taking hits of cocaine under the bench. That's great. That's perfect. But again, what do you expect from Jenna?
Close enough.
Yeah.
Talking to Jimmy Sengenberger, he's a columnist with the Denver Gazette. Now, Jimmy, I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was purchased on August 8th. This was right in the midst of all the controversy around leaked BIOS passwords, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in June or July of last year that those passwords for counties across the state were leaked. And I think that there's a lot of similarities here in that regard, because initially their instinct in this case was to lie and say, this is not our website. We're going to look into it, but have no idea. And then ultimately had no choice but to admit it because their hands were caught in the cookie jar. Well, in the BIOS password situation, you had something very similar, where Jenna initially tried to sweep it under the rug and not tell anybody about it until the Colorado Republican Party, and then the media picked up on it and started promoting it and letting people know, including county clerks. And then she had no choice but to admit to what had happened in her office and completely fumbled the ball in the PR fallout from that, looking even worse because, as we know, the cover-up is worse than the crime.
Now, Jimmy, hasn't she had like major turnover in her office? I remember one scandal was that she was running all of her press releases by Planned Parenthood. Like, what do they have to do with the Secretary of State's communication strategy? But she was doing that. She's had big turnover. You have the BIOS leaked passwords. Now you have the campaign finance complaint that's been leveraged against her. I mean, it's just like over and over and over again. You have just mismanagement of that office.
Yeah, I've been reporting on this for years about the stunning turnover. In fact, gosh, I think it was, forget his name, but I think he was her first legislative liaison who, after like a year, left office and took to LinkedIn and said, there's been 200% turnover in this office. You'd be better off finding a job elsewhere. And that was in regards to if somebody should replace him at her office. She has gone through, she's done her 3rd deputy secretary of state. And I want to put this in perspective for you for a moment, because the case being brought against her in a campaign finance complaint over this website address is being brought by the Public Trust Institute. The attorney there is Suzanne Taheri, former deputy secretary of state under both Scott Gessler and Wayne Williams. Well, before her, from 1999 until she took office in somewhere around 2011, 2012, there was only one other person, a guy by the name of Bill Hobbs, under several different Republican and Democrat secretaries. So in a 20-year period, under a slew of different secretaries of state, there were only 2 deputies, Bill and Suzanne. Jenna Griswold takes office and in a matter of a few years gets to number 3. And oh, did I mention that her first deputy secretary signed a settlement agreement that included talking points for both sides?
And with all this mismanagement, Jimmy Sengenberger, she is now at number 2 polling for the position of governor. Help me understand the appeal anybody has to wanting to put her in the job of chief executive of the state of Colorado.
Wait, Jeff, she's a hero and a savior for democracy. She is fighting against the Trump administration. You can trust her to stand for what is right, what is moral, and what is small d and capital D democratic. So vote for Jenna Griswold.
Unbelievable. And of course, that's the direction our state would go. So, Jimmy, what's next on this lawsuit complaint with Jenna Griswold? I tried to go to Jenna for governor. It looks like they've taken stuff down. Has she officially announced yet?
No, she has not. So this was premature, which means that there was a violation of campaign finance rules, at least alleged, and it appears to be the case, that you're supposed to, when you announce, you're supposed to report that. You're supposed to report related expenditures, such as the domain name and the hosting for the website. None of those things happen. So what happens next? I mean, we'll see how they end up handling this. I think that it was also passed along to the Office of Attorney General Phil Weiser, who also happens to be actually an announced candidate for governor. But to sort of have another set of eyes on this case. But there's something else I haven't mentioned that I think is really important. I'm the only one that has talked about this going back to 2022. And I'm surprised in many respects as to why, and that was the year she ran for re-election. But nevertheless, here's the thing. Jenna Griswold is also the president of the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State, which is a hyper-partisan, under her leadership, hyper-partisan national organization that has all kinds of dark money in the works, which, by the way, she's complained about dark money, yet there are literally, I don't like throwing George Soros' name out there, but there are a couple of PACs that are George Soros PACs that gave money to this organization in 2022. Well, when she took over in 2021, a couple months later, she brought somebody in to do some work and paid that individual's firm in 5 different payments, a total of $27,000. You want to take a guess who that individual was that she hired before bringing on a permanent executive director and gave the guy's firm 27 grand?
You got to give it to me. Who is it?
A guy by the name of Chris Griswold, who just so happens to be her brother, who's behind this whole website blunder. You just can't make this stuff
She's
up.
funding and paying her own brother through this stuff?
She did.
Is that taxpayer dollars?
No, it is different organizations and different individuals. Michael Bloomberg's a heavy donor to the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State. I wrote about this in multiple columns in 2022, so you can go check it out, Denver Gazette, if you want some more details on the group. But now, he did work in 2021. He was no longer being paid after they got an executive director. But it just so happens that since then, she's now on her second executive director at the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State, continuing a trend of turnover that puts anybody to shame, because from chief of staff in her secretary's office to legislative liaison to communications director, I mean, multiple people taking on roles in that office. And these are appointed positions, mind you.
Gosh, wow. It is so incestuous. It is so backroom dealing. Incredible reporting done by Jimmy Sengenberger. You can follow him on X at Seng Center over there, SENG Center, CENTER. Jimmy Sengenberger busting this all wide open about Jenna Griswold. Gosh, I sure appreciate your reporting on all of this and keeping us up to date, Jimmy. Great work.
You bet, brother. Thanks, guys.
We'll continue.
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it?
And I sit down there and I watch these people down at the state capitol, and you're just like, oh, they are some of the worst. It's all backroom dealing. It's all funding and bag boy delivery operations for special interest groups. It's awful. And I mean, you literally, she's got to be the dumbest person. And she just continues to move forward.
It's really questionable, some of the decisions. And as you know, and it was interesting, I've been thinking about that a lot last week when you talked about the idea that something that really gets under my skin is the hypocrisy of it. And it is. Yeah. It really bothers me. And that's exactly what I see with Jenna. I mean, I'm more than willing to set politics aside on what anybody says, but your hypocrisy drives me nuts. And we have a hypocrisy about how important she said it was following the rules about making passwords accessible. Do I think that she should be sent to prison as with Tina Peters? No. But should she have no charges? No, not at all, because she said the simple rule of exposing them intentional or not was important. not important enough for her to follow the rules. As Jimmy outlines, she's one of the people that takes, that looks at the idea of campaign finance violations. Yet what she did was a violation of the campaign rules. And now, so she's in charge of enforcing the rules that she either intentionally or through her own lack of knowledge violated. Neither one of those answers is okay. It's not okay if she intentionally violated them and knew the rules, and it's really, really not okay if you didn't know the rule in the first place, especially given you're part of the people that are supposed to enforce it, and you put yourself in that job. Somebody else didn't say, hey, Jenna, you're going to get to do this as well. You advocated for that role. And if you don't know the rules, double dumbass on you, to take a line from Star Trek. Now, we can go to the next line. She's shooting for the governor's mansion.
Yes.
She's shooting for the governor's mansion, and she's already shown that she believes that certain rules and laws that she says is important don't apply equally to everybody. I'm sure it doesn't matter if you are a Democrat, a Libertarian, or a conservative, Republican, or just an unaffiliated. It doesn't matter. I'm sure that's going to make you feel safe, and you want to sleep well at night, knowing the person that wants in that governor's mansion thinks some of the rules apply to some people, and they don't apply to other people, based on some predetermined ideology of those people. Great. And she's either shown the ability or desire to ignore rules she sees as inconvenient, or doesn't bother to educate herself on the actual rules and laws she's supposed to enforce. Neither of which works as an endorsement to be the governor. Whatever the answer is on this website is not okay, because it is a direct indictment of her leadership, her capabilities, her decision-making, and her approach to leadership. This is probably the second, third, maybe fourth step that shows, regardless of whether or not she's a nice person, you like her or not, it doesn't matter, politics aside, she's demonstrated in her role right now, she does not have the qualifications for leadership that it takes inside the governor's mansion. Objectively, she does not have them. And I'm not saying I have them. I don't want the job. You shouldn't put me in that job. This isn't a Bill versus Jenna thing. This is a reality versus Jenna thing. Jenna believes she doesn't have to enforce all the rules, or she can ignore some of them. And she also believes she doesn't have to know all the rules. Why should that person be governor?
At the end of the day, she tried to get Trump off the ballot. So Democrats were
that pisses me off too. I didn't want to bring that one up. That pisses me off too. And you know what pisses me off? You know what pisses me off? It pisses me off because she defended the state and said the state can do this, state can do this. They defended the state and said, no, we can't, no, we can't. And she fought against the lawsuits. But when it got kicked to the appellate, went to the Supremes, she jumped on the other side. You horse's ass. I have no respect for you to do that, because it means, one, you weren't really fighting on the side of the state the first time, and now you're going to go jump to the other side. I have no respect for you for doing that. None at all. There's no way. I'm just putting politics aside. I don't care. There's no way you should ever be let near that governor's mansion. But luckily for you, Jenna, I don't get to make the decision.
Join the conversation. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. I am begging our listeners, please, anybody out there that supports Jenna Griswold, call and defend her. I would love that. Why? I need to hear the other side on this.
Yeah,
why is she number 2 right now in the Democrats' minds to be governor of the state of Colorado?
There could be someone
Lines
out there.
are open.
There could be someone out there yelling at the radio, going, "You dumb people don't understand, and this is why she should be." Call 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. What are Jeff and I missing about the qualifications she brings to the table that makes her the best choice to now lead our state? We want to know.
And who would she have to oppose for you to support her? How bad would it be on the other side for you to pull the lever for Jenna Griswold? Phone lines are open. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplos Law text line 720-819-5115. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Yeah, who's that worst choice candidate?
This hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Pete Hegseth is vowing to bring, quote, overwhelming and decisive force against America's enemies after being confirmed by the Senate and sworn in by Vice President J.D. Vance.
All praise and glory to God. His will be done, and we're grateful to be here. We don't want to fight wars. We want to deter them, as you said, and we want to end them responsibly. But if we need to fight them, we're going to bring overwhelming and decisive force to close with and destroy the enemy and bring our boys home.
Senator Mark Mullen took Hegseth's kids up to the gallery to watch the final vote, and after Vance broke the tie, they came
running in. They said, Dad, instead of being sad about 51 to 50, they said, Dad, you won in overtime. That's the perspective I like. So thank you.
President Donald Trump says he'd like to see Arab nations increase the number of Palestinian refugees they are accepting from the Gaza Strip, potentially moving out enough of the population to, quote, clean out the area and create a virtually clean slate. He told reporters while on Air Force One that he talked about his plans on a call with King Abdullah II of Jordan and Egypt's president. Trump also says he has ended Biden's ban on sending weapons to Israel that help protect the nation and its civilians from the terror groups of Hamas and Hezbollah.
We released them today, and they'll have them, and they paid for them.
In Dallas, Christina Owayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy, my son, over the March for Life break, he was out there traveling with his high school, went out there, Lou High, out to Washington, D.C. for the March for Life. They went to different museums. One day we went to the Museum of the Bible, great, but then went to the Holocaust Museum and was talking with him about that. That was life-changing for him, as it is for anybody who ever experiences that. Today, International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Anybody in your life that has been impacted by the Holocaust, make sure you give them a message of support. What was just shocking to him were all the individual stories that took place, but then also just the sheer number, 6 million.
Oh yeah. It's the sheer number. And it's important to remember this today because we are losing the people that were rescued and were liberated from those camps because of just age. I mean, Father Time does what he does.
Yep.
And I remember the significance the first time when someone I met showed me the tattoo, showed me the number. That's something deep. That's something that really hits you because you know what they've gone through, but you don't know what they've gone through. It's something that I'm always shocked at the evil on which man is able to visit upon man. I am shocked at times how depraved we can be. So this is a good time to take a time today to reflect, react, and vow again, never again.
Never again.
Never.
And also, we had a good conversation as to why we as a family support the rights of Jews to have their own homeland. We are Zionists. We're proud to be Zionists.
Yes, I agree.
Israel's a good country, and they absolutely deserve the right to have their own country. So
I'm a Zionist as well. Absolutely.
We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Billy, we've had such a busy show today. We haven't gotten to the update on the t-shirt, so you've got to do.
Yeah, we got to do this. We got to talk about this. So again, recap. Last week we wanted to know, every time Jeff does a text message or not a text message, does something on Twitter about, and I am calling it Twitter on purpose. I'm not making a mistake because I don't want to call it X. Anytime he mentions something like Kyle Clark at Channel 9, there is a Release the Hounds moment from Monty Burns and The Simpsons, where all of these fans of Kyle Clark and Channel 9 dogpile on Jeff. So because they are so regular, because they are so convinced of their righteousness, because they are such strong supporters, they gotta have a nickname, don't they? They should. Every good fan base has a nickname. You got the Swifties, you've got the Beliebers. So what do we call Kyle's fans? So we put up a poll, and we asked you guys what you think, and you voted. You voted for Kyle's Karens, but there was a caveat. If, and only if, we got 1,000 votes in the poll, we were going to print t-shirts. And within 24 hours, y'all crushed it. You blew past the 1,000 votes. So we're making t-shirts. We announced that last week, but I'm sitting there this weekend and I'm exploring some Etsy options and I'm designing t-shirts. I'm mocking up some stuff. I'm putting it on there. I'm looking at it and I'm looking at my t-shirts and I'm like, yeah, these suck. These are awful. This looks like some sort of fourth graders designing them. And again, you know me, so that's expected. That's about where I'm running. And I'm like, it's just not fair. Now, you guys did us a solid. It is not fair for you to get some dumb t-shirt designed by my lame ass. No, it's not fair to you. You did us a solid. So Jeff and I are doing you a solid. Over the weekend, I reached out to a really good friend of my brother who runs his own t-shirt company. Now, this is the classic American entrepreneur. He runs his own shop. Only one shop. It's not a big company. He's not national, nothing like that. Dude runs one shop and employs a number of people. He is the classic small American businessman. He's not up there getting rich, buying a huge house. He's making sure his bills are paid for, and he's making sure that everybody that works for him can afford food and rent for themselves. He's solid. And so I reached out to him. Like, hey, man, I explained what's happening. He goes, yeah, I love it. I love it. So he's coming to the table for you. As a favor to the Jeff and Bill audience, he's designing the t-shirts for free. He's going to help us put up an online store. We're going to make them available for a limited amount of time. And then we're printing them and shipping them to you. So these are going to be limited edition, professionally designed t-shirts, but you can order as many as you want. Doesn't matter. There's no limit on the total number we are going to print. We are going to print all the orders, but you're only going to have a certain number of weeks to order them. So this is a limited edition series. When they're gone, they're gone. They're not going to be printed again. So you got one shot at this. He's going to have some mock-ups for us later this week. But again, audience, you guys did us a solid. We asked for 1,000 votes. You blew through it in 24 hours. We're not giving you some lame-ass t-shirt designed by me. We are bringing in the professionals. You're going to have a professionally designed t-shirt for the Jeff and Bill show about Kyle's Karens. Two different versions. We'll talk about
What do you think, Bill, or Bill, what do you think Kyle's doing right now with this?
I
How do you respond to this?
I know. What do you do? Because if he talks about it, does anything, he gives us more cred. He points us to it. We're going to sell more t-shirts. So we're going to do this. We're making this happen. He's going to, whatever the orders are, he's going to buy all the materials to print that many. He knows this thing. We're going through it. But you are getting professionally designed t-shirts from a good, solid American small business owner. And he's doing it as a favor to you. A little bit for Jeff and I, but most importantly, to you, the audience, because you showed up and you made this happen. So we're going to do you a solid and we're going to treat you right. We're not doing no messy t-shirt like me. Professionals coming in. Dude does t-shirts for bands, for restaurants, for radio stations, for concerts, for festivals. The restaurant, Athena's in Sleepless in Seattle, because he's in Seattle. He does the t-shirts for Athena's. He does the t-shirt for the band Fastback. Does the t-shirts for Elysian Brewery. Dude is fantastic. He's a pro, and he's doing us a solid.
It's going to be awesome to see. All right, this show was crazy. We talked pornography. We talked COVID-19. We talked Colombia deportations. We didn't get to Trump's third term, but we did talk TDA underground parties. Oh my gosh, if you missed any of it, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
We'll see you tomorrow. We're Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.